Wow, this is loud. Okay. Maybe it needs to be loud. Good evening, everyone. We're going to learn in Chassidus. We're going to learn Chassidus. We're holding from last week. This is a continuation from last week's Shar. Last week we started Shar, Hamoadim, in the Sidur from the Alter Rebbe. The mimer regarding the whole idea of Yom Tiv, the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tiv. It's on page 630. If you're watching on Facebook and on YouTube, you can look at last week's Shir, and it was posted, the copies for tonight as well. So here we are, page Shin Yud Ches. I'm going to reread the Zohar again so that we can have a little recollection of what we learned last week, so we can jump right back in. Let me grab the Zohar a second. And is it here? Is it there? Let me see. Parshas Emor. Scroll up. That is Emor. Parshas Emor. Because in this week's, what we're going to learn today, he's actually going to go back and explain the Zohar. Last week he just laid out a few fundamental concepts and ideas, which based on that, we will understand what's going on. Okay, here we are. Yeah, I'm starting again from the beginning of it. Come and see. At the time when Yidden down here are rejoicing in Yom, I think the mic might be a little too intense. Give me just one more minute. I have to make it a little lower. Hello, hello. Yeah, now it's better. It does not give me an echo. Okay. And they praise praises to the Eibishter. Mesadin Pesaida, they set their tables. Mesakna Garmayu, they put on nice clothing. B'mani Yakar, and expensive clothing. Regular, not the regular weekday clothing. Malachei Lo Amrin, the Malachim from above say, Mativan de Yisroel B'kach. What's the celebration? What's going on? Kuchabrichu Amar. The Eibishter says, "Ushpizi ilah islan yoim medah." There's a guest coming. What are you talking about? Guests are coming. When guests come, we make a party. Everybody dresses up. Special guest is coming. Amri, so the malachim say, "V'lav delachu." It's your guest. What does it have? What are they doing by that party? Mayahu asar deikra kodesh. They're being invited to the place that's called Kodesh, which is very high. Which means basically they're inviting your guests. What does it have to do with them? Amaloin. So the Eibishter says to the angels, to the malachim, the Yisroel av kodesh ninu, are the Jewish people not holy? So since this is guest, in which the guests are coming to the place called holy, so the Jewish people belong there, Yidden belong there, because we too are from the place called holy. They're called holy, the ikrin kodesh, and they're called holy. Loi ischaze lezamna ushpiza deli. Loin ischaze, to them it is befitting Lezamna ushpizadali, to invite or to be part of the zimun of ushpizadali, of my guest. Chad mesitr dali, for two reasons. Chad mesitr dali, one because of myself. The inond veikim, because they cleave to me. And we'll see what that means in today's discussion. V'chad mesitr de kodesh, and one from the side of holiness, which, as we're going to see today, is higher than what it just said, that they're mesitr dali, they're from my side. Because we'll see which level is talking over here, that we're saying that the second one, that they're coming from Kodesh, is even higher. Kodesh Yisrael Hashem. In other words, they're bound up with me, but they're bound up even with a place that is higher than the level of the divine that is now answering the question to the Malachim. V'hoyel v'Yisrael ikrin Kodesh, and since the Jewish people are called holy because of these two reasons, ushpiza d'loinu v'adai, it's definitely their guest as well, and therefore on Yom Tiv, They are there by the party participating. Begin this mina da hayushpiza mekaydeshu, because the place from where they have been invited from, this guest. We're soon going to see who the guest is. The place from where these guests have been invited is from holiness. They're invited from Kodesh, and therefore they belong there. So they all, the Malachim said, Ashrei ha'am, praised is the people, shekach aloi, so is to him. So they admit that Yidden deserve this. And now the Zohar continues. So first we had this dialogue between Hashem and the Malachim about the Jewish people's relationship to celebrating Yom Tov. It's interesting. Did the Malachim ever have an argument in which they were right? They're always arguing and they're always on the wrong side of the argument. They always lose. I don't want to say, a bunch of losers. In Chassidus, we chapazach a lot with the Malachim. I heard a story this week that the Alter Rebbe once dismissed the Malachim in the early day, and the whole city got very upset. There was Chassidus that emphasizes the milos of neshamas. In Judaism, until Chassidim came around, like angels. Chassidus came around and uncovered the pnimius of neshamas. Because really the question is, are the Malachim higher than neshamas? Or are Jews higher? Are humans higher than the angels higher than humans? It depends from what perspective. From the perspective of the body, Malachim are much higher. From the perspective of the soul, neshamas are much higher. So when you're studying only the revealed part of the Torah, which is only the body of the Torah, so what's highlighted in everything is the body. So angels are like, whoa. But if you highlight Pnimius HaTorah is the Neshama. Mitzad the Neshamas are way above Malachim. In any case, so then it continues. So there's only 3 times that those that are the guest to the holy, they're invited from holiness. Who are they? Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos. These are the 3 Yomim Tovim who are called Mikra'ei Kodesh. They're invited from holiness, which means they are outsiders, as we're going to see. They're not holy, and they are invited from holiness. Amalei Rabbi. So Rabbi says, "V'chi Shabbos lav mikodesh yizam," and Shabbos is not invited from holiness. Shabbos is also becoming Shabbos Kodesh, a holy day. Amalei loy. No. He says, B'trei Sittin, for 2 reasons Shabbos doesn't count. Chad Iyavadish Kodesh Ikr, because Shabbos itself is called Kodesh. Dichsiv Shmartem es HaShabbos ki Kodesh Lechem. Observe Shabbos because Shabbos is holy to you. You know, the Shabbos itself is holy. It's not invited from holiness. And the second reason, the Shabbos lav zamen, who Shabbos is not invited, da Yerusa delehu vadai, because it's his inheritance. Yerusa de kodesh hu yaris v'lo yizaminu. He inherits holiness, but he's not invited. So there's 2 answers. One, that he's holy himself. The other one is even if he's not holy himself, but holiness is his inheritance. So today it's going to become clear what this means. 2 dargis in Shabbos. The deeper level of Shabbos is holiness itself. So definitely doesn't have to be invited by holiness. The lower element of Shabbos, even though it's not holiness itself, but its relationship with holiness is one that it's not an external type of a connection where it's like as been invited by holiness. It's entitled to holiness because it inherits holiness, as we're going to see. And that's why all of them that are invited in holiness, even when they come in, those that are being invited, they are invited and they have to pass through Shabbos. They attach themselves to Shabbos, and they crown themselves in Shabbos, and through Shabbos and with Shabbos, they're elevated. And the 7th day, they are crowned. And that's why Shabbos itself is not considered an invitee, someone who was invited by holiness. And it gives an example, it gives a mashal in order for us to understand this better. Like a child who goes to the house of his father and his mother. He goes in and out at the time that he wants. He doesn't need an invite. And he continues giving this mashal. Versus who? Versus others that don't just come in and go whenever they want. You can't open the refrigerator whenever they want. They have to They have to justify what they're doing in the palace. They have to be invited. It's a marshal, it's a metaphor to a king who had a one and only child who was very precious to him. He gave him a friends to watch over him, and they should attach themselves to the child. So the king said, it would be nice to invite my sons. He tells his son, he says, it'd be nice to invite your friends, your buddies too. The son doesn't need an invite, as it says. To show them appreciation, that I appreciate them, they're your friends. And invite your buddies, invite your friends. The child doesn't need the invite, because he comes in all the time. He can go in and eat and drink in the house of his father whenever he wants. And he brings a pasuk to prove this. Who is like you amongst the powerful God? Who is like you, who is glorified with holiness? What do you see in this pasuk? And today, we're going to learn today, it's going to become so clear what the Zohar is saying. The difference between Shabbos and all the other Yomim Tovim. See, the main differences we're going to see is that the Yom Tovs come out on weekdays. I mean, besides if it comes out on Shabbos, but then it has the quality of Shabbos because it's Mitzvah Shabbos. But the essence of Yom Tov is that a weekday becomes holy. and therefore, it's considered an outsider. And that's derived and related to the pasuk, Mi kamocha be'elim, as we're soon going to see what the meaning of this is. But Hashem is different. Havaya is different than Elim. Elim are the powers, the divine powers of the weekday, which even though they're divine, that's why they're called Elim, amongst the powerful ones. They're real powerful ones. Simply you learn these are the angels. Well, what's the question over here? Who is like you amongst the angels? Who would think that an angel can compare himself to God? But the chiddush over here is we're talking about godly divine powers, which are the divine powers, the creative powers, as we're going to see soon, which are divine. They even have godly names. But yet, you can't compare to Shem Havaya with Shabbos. Shabbos is Havaya. And what's the mile of Shabbos? Who is like you? Neder b'kodesh, glorified with holiness. Shayich to Kodesh. The other ones are not Shayich to Kodesh. Neder b'kodesh vadai. Kvar de itkan ba'avoy, because it's been the itak of ba'avoy. It's been strengthened with the Father. Kodesh is the level of Chachma. Neder b'kodesh is glorified with holiness. V'loy zamen mikodesh, not invited to holiness. The others are sometimes invited by holiness. But Shabbos is neder b'kodesh. He is powerful with holiness, because the holiness is part of him itself. Sheishes yamim teyasem malacha. 6 days you should do work. Sheishes yamim maya vidite. What is the work of these 6 days? Rabbi Yossi says, "Ksiv ki sheishes yam masa shemes hashemayim v'sa'aretz, v'lo ksiv b'sheishes." It doesn't say in 6 days God created. It says 6 days created, which means we're dealing with godly powers. Every day does its work. They're called days of work. Why are they called days of work? If we're talking about godly powers that are creative powers, which means they're like extensions of God, the Sheishes Yamim, the 6 days. Why are they called mundane? Why are they called chulin? Chulin means not godly. Rabbi Yossi says, Hashtis nag alma al yedei shluchayu. Now, we'll soon see, during the time of Golus, this is what it means now. During this period of time, the world is being conducted through a shliach, not directly through the Eibishter. So I'm going to see what that means, through a shliach. Therefore, the divine powers that are active during the week to bring about the literal physical weekday is a little disconnected from God. It's like, it's separating to the extent that it's called a shliach already. It's like a malach doing it. And because of that disconnect, it's no more behiskalalos, no more completely in perfect unity with the Ein Sof. And for that reason, it's not called kodesh, it's not called holy, it's called weekday, it's called mundane. It's already, in a sense, already close to the idea of a nivra, of a creation. That's why they're called choil. They're no more an extension flow of the Ein Sof. This is all to explain the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. That's why Yom Tov is a chiddush mikra kodesh. It's being called by holiness. Reb Chia says, begin the shara lamebed bein avidatik, because you're allowed to do work on it. Or begin dala yikran kodesh. That's why it's not called kodesh. Because if the Ein Sof would be present in it, you wouldn't be allowed to do work. Or man dalav ikran kodesh choil ikran, and whatever is not called holy is called weekday. Valda askina chavraya bavdala bein kodesh lechoil. And that's why when we make Havdalah, we say Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'choil. And we're talking about time itself. Till now it's holy, and now it's becoming weekday. And that means the divine energy, the flow of energy that's here is already considered weekday. It's considered choil, mundane, compared to the energy, the life force of existence that was present, that we can tap, that was the energy of Shabbos. My Havdalah hacha, what's the Havdalah? Ela Kodesh milaber garmayahu. Kodesh is a word unto itself. Ushara minei asyon. And the rest come from it. We'll see what that means. The others come from it. Valda ilan la avada. And that's why these are for work, the 6 days of the week. The ilan, but these 6, we'll soon see it's referring to something higher. These 6 days, natra, are for observance, to be watched, not for work. When is there a watching in the lower 6 days? When can we say on the lower level of 6 days that are not Kodesh? When are they not days of work, but days to be observed? When they're invited. That's when a Yom Tov falls out on the weekday. And then Mikra'ei Kodesh, then the days have been sent to an invite, as we're going to see, from holiness. They were invited from the outside to the inside. That's the Zohar that the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. Okay, so watch how the Alter Rebbe takes a passage of Zohar that without the Alter Rebbe, it's like, oh, what in the world are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. Comes the Alter Rebbe, macht lichtig. And that's why the Alter Rebbe, people don't realize this. The Alter Rebbe is the extension of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai comes and brings us these godly secrets, but they're remaining cryptic till the Alter Rebbe comes. Passage after passage of Zohar, if you learn it with him. And dafka that it says it's going to happen before Mashiach comes, that's the segula. People think learning Zohar is a segula. Learning Chassidus is a segula. Because without Chassidus, the Zohar remains completely lofty, above our heads. Chassidus takes it, and that's why it says that in the end of days, it says it's going to be isparnasun menei. We're going to make parnasa from it. It's going to feed us. We're going to digest it. Digest it means, as it says in the Mefarshim on the Zohar, Yefarshu meimarav. The teachings of the Zohar are going to be explained. So what we celebrate on Lag BaOmer, the fire, the dancing, the bonfire, the energy, the Bar Yochai, the whole, this, we're experiencing that divine, it's all about the mimer that we're learning tonight, where we're settling it down, we're decoding it, making it understood. And then later, 7 generations, until we fully, really can grasp it. Now, I saw a beautiful story. Who was the chassid? I forget, I'm so bad with names. There was a chassid who came to the Mittler Rebbe. I don't remember who. I just read the story today and I don't remember who. Today or yesterday. And the Mittler Rebbe called him by his name, he says, I want to tell you what my sister saw in her dream. Rebbetzin Freda was the Alter Rebbe's daughter. She saw her father and her reaction to seeing her father was very, I so didn't pay attention to the story, to the details. I read it, but I didn't. You're supposed to pay attention to a story, to all the details. Her reaction to seeing her father was like very stunning. She saw her father, I don't know, she didn't faint. She laughed, she cried. I don't know what her reaction was. So her father asked her, "Was bist du? Why are you so why are you so moved? Why are you so excited? So she says, your father, your garments are so lichtig, you're so... She saw her father after her father passed away. She says, you're so bright. And her father said, yeah, but Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is brighter. His garments are brighter. That was the story. So the Mittler Rebbe said, cook. Besides Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, he didn't find anybody else. In other words, till Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, talking about when the Alter Rebbe told Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, you have all the tzaddikim and all the mekubalim and all the... You think I'm bright? Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's garments. Also, but Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is there already for thousands of years already, so it gets brighter and brighter. But the fact that he had no one else to say that are brighter than his, besides Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, that the Mittler Rebbe said. In any case, so I said like we said last week, let's learn holy words. Okay. So last week we learned 2 Hagdamas, and I'm not going to elaborate. I'm just going to say the Nakuda. One Nakuda is, and again, if you want to understand what we're reading tonight, I would recommend to listen to last week's class called The King and the Guest in the House at the Royal Table. As you can understand now by listening to the Zohar, why that's the name of the class. And the Alter Rebbe first is distinguished between Shabbos and Yom Tov, is that Shabbos is Meir, the illuminance from above is Moichen the Abba, and that's why it's called Moichen. The godly lights are coming from Chachma, and that's called Father, and that's why it's Oneg Shabbos, because in Moyach HaChachma is Malubish Oneg, because when you experience Chachma, you experience pleasure. And it's not a time of simcha, it's a time of pleasure. That's why the mitzvah of Shabbos is Oinek Shabbos. And on Yom Tov is Meir, is shining Be'ikr my Adam l'simcha. It's a time of simcha because it's, what is happening on Yom Tov is that there is a great expansion and an illumination of the mochen of mother, of Bina. And that causes simcha. And he explained the difference between Oneg and simcha. Oineg is pleasure is one that involves an inwardness. When you're experiencing pleasure, you're going deep inside yourself. Pleasure is not something that is a shareable experience. Pleasure is an inward type of an experience that's taking place in the inner recesses of a person's being. And then there is another, and then joy, by its very definition, is an experience that moves to the outside of the person. It bursts outward. Simcha is an outward flow. It sends ripples outward. Person is simcha. First of all, they'll show external. Simcha is an energy of bursting. It bursts out from the inside towards the outside. And that's why it's related, he says, to Chachma and Bina. Chachma is always elusive. Chachma is an akuda that remains private, remains inward. Bina is when you understand something. It's 2 different koyches in the nefesh. One is a koyach of inwardness, and one is a koyach of outwardness, of opening up. So Bina is opening up. That's why the experience that comes from Bina is simcha, which is also an expansiveness. And Tainug is an inward experience, pulling, it's a suction, inwardness, and that's why the oineg that comes from it, that comes from the chachma is an akuda. It takes everything it's looking for the point of it. That's a kivutz, a contraction in a sense. So therefore, the pleasure also follows that. That was one distinction between Shabbos and Yom Tov. Then he went on to explain another fundamental idea, and that is, why is it that we find that even though there are different names by the Eibishter, and every name is referring to a different sphera, to a different attribute, Kelas and Chesed and so on and so forth. But Dafka Teferes is called Shem Havaya. That's what we discussed last week. Dafka Teferes is called Shem Havaya. And what we asked, why is it unique that Dafka Teferes is called Havaya? So he explained that Havaya is a Shem Etzem. It's referring to God himself. And since all the other spheres are particular, chesed is chesed, and gevura is gevura, and each one is its own character, each one is its own, and contradictory to the other one. One of them is right. One is I want to give it in colors. One is black and the other one is white. One is dark and one is tzimtzum and the other one is espashtos. Two different types of experiences, which they don't tolerate one or the other, and for that reason, you can't attribute it to God, because God doesn't have any specifics. But the Eibishter, the Orein Sof, is shlemusa dekula. Shlemusa dekula means not that he has everything inside of him. He's so beyond everything, so automatically everything comes from him. He could emanate everything, because he's nothing. He's beyond any definition. And thus the Eibishter himself. And since the Orein Sof itself, and Tiferes exhibits that nature, because the inyan of Tiferes is Rachamim, and Rachamim, he said, we discussed this last week, is a blend of Chesed and Gevura. That's the idea of Rachamim. And that's why out of all the spheros, the one that is the most, the greatest, the closest to a reflection of the all-inclusiveness of the Eibishter and the non-definitionness of the Eibishter is Dafka Tiferes, because of its ability to harmonize and unify everything together. And that's why Shem Havai is Meir Dafka and Tiferes. Then the Alter Rebbe continued with a fascinating thing. And he explained that is according to Ramosha Kardavo, according to the Ramak, according to the early Mikubalim. However, based on the teachings of the Arizal, where the Arizal explained the concept of Tikkun, where Tikkun means that the entire new system of Atzilus, this is what Atzilus really is. And according to what the Alter Rebbe explains over here, the earlier Mekubalim never really got Atzilus. They never really got the Chiddush of Atzilus. The Chiddush of Atzilus is the idea of Partzuf. Partzuf means Eskalalus. Eskalalus means that everything works in a state of configurations. Just give me 1 minute. Everything works in a system of configuration. Where configuration means that all spheres blend one with each other, like we do in Spheres Ayim, Chesed Shebegvura, Gvura Shebechesed, so on and so forth. And he says how it integrates more and more. Everything has within it, because this Chesed Shebegvura Shebetiferes, you have, and this goes on upon on and on. There is a powerful synchronization and pure of across the board in the entire parts of Spheros in Ze'er Anpin. They're all integrated because it's Olam HaTikun. It's not like it is in Olam HaTikun. In other words, this that the Pardes, the Ramak says about Tiferes, that Tiferes is a harmony. According to the Arizal, all of Atzilus is harmonious. Obviously, Tiferes is the Nekuda Pnimius of that harmony, but it really extends to all the Spheros, and that's the Chiddush of Olam HaTikun. Both Ze'er Anpin Biklolos, and therefore you can call the entire Ze'er Anpin also Havaya. Not only Tiferes, and not only that, he says Havaya, there is Havaya in each sphere individually. There is Havaya in Chachma, there is Havaya not only in the, why? Because even in the details of every sphere, there is an escalalus of all 10 spheres. That's the Chiddush of Olam HaTikun. Like you see in the body, that all parts of the body harmonize one with each other. And that's because what the Alter Rebbe says, the main important idea that is only that's only in the pnimius of the Ze'er Anpin, but in the chitzonius of the Ze'er Anpin, which means in the more external element of the outer kalim of the Ze'er Anpin, over there the spheros emerge already more distinct. Each one is presenting their idea, their agenda, their their energy, what they represent, and in a way that is, to a certain degree, exclusive and extreme. Not like Olam Hatoyu, of course, because it's the chitzonius of a pnimius that's blended. But on the outside, everything comes out. Like he says, you take a look on the body. Externally, every limb is separate. The fact that there is blood inside the body, which harmonizes and unifies all the neshama dwells in the body, that's why there is an eskalos. But mitzad chitzonius on its own, each one stands on its own. And therefore, he says, that's where we say that in the other spheres there is individual names. That's the chitzonius of the spheres. That's why Chesed is Kale, and Gevur is Elokim, and this one. And the truth is, as I'm going to see today, even Tiferes is not really Havaya on its most external level. The inyan of Havaya and Tiferes is also shaykh more towards Panimis. Of course, in Tiferes it's more pronounced than in all the other spheres, because Tiferes, the meaning of Tiferes is beauty, which beauty means harmony. But on the most external level of Tiferes is also not purely, you can't consider it completely unified with the Ein Sof. It's also, it extends itself as a particular sphere. The chitzonius of the Ze'er Anpin doesn't have this unique feature of tikkun as much, and therefore Havaya doesn't apply on it, which means it's not in a state of unity with Or Ein Sof. And that's why it's called already, to a certain degree, pirud and separation. For this reason, he explained why the 6 days of the week, even though they're divine powers, because we know 6 days, the 6 spheres, and the divine energy that comes down on Sunday, Monday, but since they're coming down in a way from the chitzonius, because Pnimius remains in Atzilus, only the chitzonius of the Kalim, we learned last week, the Pnimius of the Kalim, of the chitzonius of the Kalim, goes down in Olam Abriya. The middle part of those Kalim comes down, becomes the neshama, the power, the creative power of Olam HaYetzirah, the world of formation, and the external part of it becomes the creative power of Olam HaAsiyah, of the world of Asiyah. But it's all the Kalim, which the Kalim are the chitzonius. Since it's the chitzonius, the external, where the yichud is not there, it's for that reason you see, Taki says, you take a look, he says, if you see the first, what was created on Sunday was all in the energy of kindness. What was created on Monday is all the energy of Gevura. You don't see kindness on Monday. You don't see severity and strictness on Sunday. Each one on their own. Also in the first 1,000 years, exclusive kindness. Second 1,000 years, exclusive Gevura. Because we're dealing with it manifesting on its most external level. Over there, they're separated. And therefore, they're called Yom Dechoil, weekdays. And for that reason, if it's Yom Tiv, and Yom Tiv means what? That the day is now being invited to experience higher godliness. The meaning of Yom Tov is the Eibishter is inviting, Hashem is shining light to a place where He usually doesn't shine. Asiyah, Yetzirah, and Bria, which are usually separated, and the energy flow that's in them, which is the weekday energy, whichever day of the week it is, or Wednesday or a Thursday, whatever it is, and is now in a state of pirud, is invited up where? Maayon l'simcha, it's invited into the energy of Bina, and Bina and Chachma are what? Treinei and the loy misparshin. So in Bina there is a luminance of Chachma. It's not like the Midos, where the external part of the Midos are already separated from the Yichud. They're already, especially when they come down in the world, they're totally separated. But now it's invited up into Bina, where Bina there is Mikra'e Kodesh, a calling of holiness, which comes down even into Bina, and being that it's coming into Bina, and they're rising into Bina, especially into the Netzach Hod Yesod of Bina, that's where they're rising up, and that's where there's still an extension of Chachma energy. So now on Yom Tiv, they're experiencing Kodesh, so they also become holy. But they're considered like outsiders that are invited by Kodesh. That's the idea that we learned last week. Now we're continuing Aval Inyan HaShabbos. So now we see inside. On page Shin Yud Ches, Aval Inyan HaShabbos Ubchinas Pnimi Yizah. What is Shabbos? So what I don't understand yet, and which so far in today's shir, it's not going to be explained, meaning from, at least not that I saw up till now, in the part that we're going to learn tonight. Tonight we're hopefully going to finish the Maimer, but the Maimer has two explanations on the Maimer. And that's what I would like to teach next week and the following. I would like to finish the whole thing, and then hopefully we'll get an explanation. Or else I'll have to do some more research. And that is, he's going to explain that the inyan of Shabbos, what's Shabbos? Shabbos is the 6 days are the 6 emotions, and the inyan of Shabbos is the pnimius of the Ze'er Anpin. It's the oir. It's the if they are the limbs, if they are the midos, this is the neshama of the midos. Shabbos is which is a concept we've learned many times, that Shabbos is considered pnimius to the days of the week. Shabbos is like the middle, and the 7 days come out of it. But what I don't understand is, how does it fit with the fact that Shabbos is Malchus? Malchus is lower than the 6 spheros. In a sense, it's lower even than the chitzonius of the spheros, because it's mekabel from the spheros that are above it. So how is Shabbos both Shabbos HaMalka, which is Malchus, and at the same time we say Shabbos is the pnimius of Ze'er Anpin, the pnimius of the Mashpia. So I don't know, okay? That I don't know. But let's now look at Shabbos as Shabbos being the pnimius of the Ze'er Anpin. Aval inyan Shabbos v'b'chinas pnimius the Ze'er Anpin. It's the pnimius of Ze'er Anpin, the pnimius the Zah. Sheyesh b'b'chinas eskalos kanal, which the pnimius of the Ze'er Anpin, as we said before, from the Arizal, the entire Ze'er Anpin has eskalos. It's completely dominated by the rules of the world of Tikkun. Where the worlds of Tikkun means everything is integrated one from each other. And the ability to be integrated one with each other, even with things that are totally diametrically opposed, opposites, is only mitzad if it's meir, if it's shining in it from the Orein Soif, the Shleimusa de Kula, as he explains. V'hu al yedei shema, that's because the power of ma is bittul, and the power of the Orein Soif, which is koyach ma, which is illuminating in chachma, the koyches of ma is yudke vavke b'milui alfen, alufay shaloilam. How do you get to 45? It's because you fill the yudke vavke with aleph. Who's the aleph? Aleph is the power of the Ein Sof. So that's it's that power from koyach ma that's shining in Ze'er Anpin, as he's going to explain in a minute. There's a pasuk in Mishlei where it says, ma shemoy, what's his name? Uma shem benoi, and ma is the name of his son. Meaning to say, Chachma, he himself, we say ma on him, because you can't define him with any definitions. And Shem Benoi, even his son, which is already the beginning of Tziyur, it's the beginning of definition. It's already Adom Elyon, it's already the supernal man who's got some kind of a feature to him, yet, due to the Achdus, the perfect harmony that there is amongst all the points, it's reflecting something that's beyond, it's definitive, but it's not definition. That's why it's an Adam, but it's Adam Ela Elyon. Why is it called Adam? Is 45 also, Aleph Daled Mem. But it's Adam Ela Elyon. It's compared to the one above, the one that doesn't have any form and any shape and any definition. And that's why it's called the son. Where is he going? He's going Lebeisa Davi. He's going up to his father. That means on Shabbos there is, of course, Aliyah Sa'ilamais. That means Shabbos is. Let me put it this way. Shabbos exists during the week as well. What do we mean? If Shabbos is the pnimius, then even during the week, you have Shabbos. Shabbos is just an inner, that's what we know. This is Gavaldik. I didn't think of this earlier. That's why we know that every day there is a Shabbos of the day. The davening of every day, it says, is the Shabbos of the day. What does that mean, it's the Shabbos of the day? It's not a joke? It's the Shabbos of the day when you're davening. No. The external part of the divine energy that's actually manifesting in the world, that's the weekday. That's the chesed on Sunday, the Monday. But the soul that's in it, that's the soul that's the soul of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the general power that later manifests and expresses itself in the midas. Or we can say the pnimius of each midah, where they're integrated one with each other, that's a deeper dimension of life. It's not touching the external element of existence, but it's there, present. And when we daven, we break out of the surface and we push out of the external level of energy, and we tap in a deeper energy. So on Shabbos, you could be Monday, but you could be standing in the Shabbos of Monday, and over there, all 6 days are together. when you're davening, the davening of Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, you're really touching every day of the week, because inside the days are all behiskalalos. It's only on the outside that the days are separated. It's a fascinating idea. Which also tells you that Shabbos exists on Sunday. There's also Shabbos, and on Monday it's existing as the nucleus, and the days are all shining outward from Shabbos. So here comes out like this: the Shabbos element during the 6 days of the week is the Zeir Anpin, which it itself is already called to a certain degree Kodesh, holy. Why? Because, as we said before, it's unified still with the Ein Sof. But on Shabbos itself, when the day becomes Shabbos, then then Shabbos itself, the Shabbos which is the Pnimius of Zeir Anpin, is Oile, Shabbos. It returns. It's Oile where to be closer to Chachma. Even in the weekday, it's shining in it Chachma, because it's Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin. And in the Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin, the Ein Sof is there even in the weekday. But on Shabbos, as Aliyah Sa'olam, as it goes up, it has an Aliyah. But that Aliyah is not called the guest that's coming, because he's a child. He never became someone else. That's the Nakud. We explained earlier that in the level where there is a skalalos, where there is integration, Meir, it is shining from the essence of the perfection of the Ein Sof. Because where you can see a unification of opposites, we have to say that over there it's shining from the light of the essence of shleimus. And therefore nikra teferes noira, and that's why teferes is called nora. Because Teferes is the unifier, and that's why it's called the awesome one. Who's Noira? Noira is ultimately Keser is called Noira, and in Keser itself, Malchus the Ein Sof, the Malchus of the Ein Sof, that's called Noira. Noira Tehilos. And where is that? We call Teferes HaNoira, like we say in Ishmael Esrei. Hagadol is Chesed, Hagibor, Vahanora, and the awesome one. And we add an extra Vav. Vav shows the channel, because this goes all the way up into the Ein Sof. Why is Teferes unique? Because it's harmonizing. So the Pnimius, V'zeu atam shenikra Adam, and that's why it's also called Adam. What's called Adam? Adam means, and Dafke Teferes is called Adam. And the Pnimius of the whole Zeir Anpin, according to the Arizal, because the Arizal says that in the Pnimius of Olam HaTikun, of the entire Zeir Anpin, there is a Skalalus. And where there is a Skalalus means it's reflecting the all-inclusiveness of the Ein Sof. That's why it's called Adam. And Adam means Adame. I'm comparing to the one above. Pirush Kamay Adame LaElyon. I'm comparing to the one above. Who's the Elyon? The Elyon is the Ein Sof. Kamashal Haben. It's like a child. It's not the father. It's not the Ein Sof itself. The fact that it's already an Adam means something was born from the Ein Sof. And where did the Zeir Anpin be born from? The Zeir Anpin was born from Chachma and Bina. Chachma and Bina created a child. It's like a new entity. But the child is similar to the father. Kamashal haben shadayim la'avid, that he's compared to his father. Why does this? Because the son has from the brain of the father, and what's there in the brain of the father? The brain of the father is Chachma, and in Chachma, in the brain, is the pure Ein Sof. Kach beginnes Pnimius de Zah, the Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin, Nikra Ben is called a child. Kamashakasa, like it says, Ma Shemoy, Ma is his own name, Koyach Ma, the power of Ma, Uma, and Ma, Shem Benoy is the name of a son. I should check up that pasuk, what the simple meaning of the verse is. And like it also says, B'ni B'chayri Yisroel. Hashem refers to Yisroel, which simply means the Jewish people, my firstborn child. But the deeper meaning is the level of Yisroel. Who's Yisroel? Yisroel is Teferes, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov is Yisroel. Or in general, the entire Zeir Anpin is called Yisroel. And what does Hashem refer to it? My firstborn child. The Yeduah, it is known, the Yisroel, Zelamayla, that this Yisroel, as it's referring above there, who anikra muda de Emtsi Usa, the middle Amud, Shubchen parts of Zah, which is the parts of the configuration of the entire Zeir Anpin, in the Pnimius of it, which is where they're all integrated one with the other, Dafke in the realm of the world of Tikkun. He's taking you back to what he said earlier, according to the Kabbalah of Ramosha Kurdovo, which that it doesn't apply to the entire Ze'er Anpin, the entire structure of Atzilus, but at least to Teferes it does. Hu b'b'chinas Kav HaMitzoi, it's Dafke in the middle branch. It can move b'rei mehemna, and as it states clearly in Zohar, in the portion called Rei Mehemna, the Yisroel nikra bra buchre la'aba ve'ima. It's called the firstborn child to Chachma and Bina. The Alken, and therefore you can't say by him like you say by the Chitzonius, by the external element of the Ze'er Anpin. B'yayim Dechol, the weekdays in which you call them outsiders. It's not called Havaya. It's not part of an uninterrupted flow of Yudke Vavke of the Orin Seif. No, because the Orin Seif over there it's not revealing itself, but over here the Orin Seif is revealing himself. Even though Shagam b'Shabbos yesh inyan aliyah sa'olamos, and even though that even on Shabbos there is an aliyah in the olamos, that means that in the Ze'er Anpin itself there is an aliyah. On Shabbos, it's more than the very same darga of Pnimi Ze'er Anpin, the very same level of the innermost of the Ze'er Anpin as it is during the week. It's in a lower state, but on Shabbos it's elevated, so it too elevates. So why can't it be called a guest? You can't call it that way. Uklalas aliyah, and what is the aliyah? Hu b'bchinas oir abba, that it's going up. That means on Shabbos itself, there's a much greater increase. Bittel, there's a much greater increased power of Ma in Shabbos as it was the very same level during the week. It's called Shenikra Kodesh, it's called Kodesh. Aval ein ba'aliyah zu is chachos. In this aliyah, there's nothing new. Kamoi bevav yom in the chol. It's not like a new experience completely, because it was always attached to the Orin Seif. It's like turning up the volume from a 3 to an 8. But it's still something that was present over there. In the weekday, in the weekday, I mean not Shabbos in the weekday, but the weekday, in the 6 days, by then the volume is completely shut. You know, you have a volume dial where the power, when you get it to 0, then you shut it, click, off, then you turn it on. Once it's on, it's on. The sound is coming through. Lower volume, higher volume. The sound is coming. Here, it's completely shut off, interrupted. There is no flow of Orin Soif, of Havaya, in the spheroids after they pass the Parsa, where as we learned last week, the Kav doesn't continue. The Kav of Orin Soif, the thread of the Orin Soif doesn't continue. So it's disconnected. The Ein Zedav Chodesh Klal, hold on. Yom Dechol, El Aderech Mashal, so it's but on Shabbos it's not that way, because it's the Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin. And the Pnimius of Zeir Anpin, there has never been an interruption. El Aderech Mashal Haben, it's like a child. Shenichnas Lebeis Aviv, who's going into his father's house, L'Shulchanai, to his table. She'ein Tzarech HaChanai, he doesn't need a preparation. The Ein Zedav Chodesh Klal, it's not a new thing. How can he go in there? Because he's considered continuation of his father. His father's house is his house. Because a child is an extension. He's the leg of his father. So is the moichen of the Zeir Anpin in the state of Tikkun. This is the moichen of Zeir Anpin, is the moichen of Chachma. It's considered like one essence with him, even though it's manifesting on a much lower level. That's why it's his son. It's not him, but the son is like the father. Adam Mela Elyon. You can't call him a guest. You can't call him that he was invited from the level of Kodesh. He has Kodesh all along. It's just that he's getting closer to it. This is his inheritance. For who atzmai Kodesh Ikra, and he himself is called holy. As explained in this Maim of Adai Lamev. And in the light of Father, of Chachma, is where it's shining, the essence of the Orein Seif, Kenis Galiel, because Chachma is total bittul, and Chachma is a keli for the lights of Shema of the Orein Seif. The Ikaratam, and the main reason is Lufisha B'Chenes Eskalalus. The main reason why Teferes or Ze'er Anpin, the Pnimius of Ze'er Anpin has that unique inyan is because Eskalalus Meir B'Chenes Shleimus the Orein Seif. That's what's so powerful. See, it's an amazing thing. One of the things that make us age and make us get old is change. You know, anything that's changing cause you to I saw a story today again. I was reading some stories in early morning. So, with Chassidic Shemaisis, so there's a story there that Chatra Fagin was one of I forgot to see again. I told you I don't remember names. A Chassid was by the Rebbe for Yechidus. A Chassid, an elderly Chassid, and the Rebbe kept on referring to him in the way you refer to a person when you say ear, was macht ear, like with a certain respect you give to an elderly person, the person probably older than the Rebbe. So the Rebbe was referring to him ear. And this chassid couldn't tolerate it. That the Rebbe was talking to him like he was some important whatever, with that, like in the plural, instead of to say, how are you doing in the singular. So he says to the Rebbe, why are you speaking like this? Why are you merachik me? Why are you distancing me? You're creating distance by talking to me that way. So the Rebbe said, you're something about to the effect that you're older and whatever. So he said, I heard from Chatra Fagin. He said he heard from this Chatra Fagin that a chassid only ages, his body ages, but the chassid in him doesn't age. The chassid of the chassid doesn't get old. And since a chassid doesn't age, then, I'm not old. The chassid in me that's standing here right now over here hasn't aged. I'm a young guy, and therefore you could talk to me like you talk to one of your young bachrim, say, do, whatever. So the Rebbe changed, and the Rebbe started talking to him the way he speaks. The Rebbe liked that. The Rebbe liked that word, and the Rebbe spoke to him in that way. Why is it that the chassid doesn't get old? So based on what we're learning now, aging comes from you've been through a lot. What makes you be through a lot? Constant change causes wear and tear. Today is one thing. Then when you take something and you change it completely, and then you change it again, so you're bending and the changing and the changing and the changing and the changing causes it to wear out. So the vart is like this. As time passes, powerful changes we pass through powerful changes, and each time we need to adapt, and that causes. So Sunday is Sunday, and Monday is Monday, and each day is different. But if you're a chassid, and as we said earlier, if you're davening, which means if you can tap into the Shabbos of every day, in the inner dimension of time, since there is hiskalalus and integration, you're not fragmented. It's not this day and that day. In the inner range of time flow, Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all complete, which means all the energies that are so different are all totally one. Because the hiskalalus unifies them because they all have a bittul to something higher than them, which is an interesting anti-aging thing. That's when Mashiach comes. We're going to live on forever because we're going to tap into the deep, to a deeper. We're not going to pass through time in the way time affects us now. Yeah, just an interesting thought based on what we're learning. In the Hiskalalus shines the Shleimus of the Orein Soif. Which is the Shema of the Zeiranpin. Hadoim Elyon, that's compared to the one above, which is Chachma before we said, or even higher, Shubchenes Keser. Mitamz, as we said before, V'dai L'meivim. Ubezeh Yuvin Klolusing in Mitzvah Shabbos. But this will understand the general idea of the Mitzvah of Shabbos. Umashu Achar Vav Yom in the Childa, after why it comes after 6 days of the week. By the way, it's all connected to this week. It's connected to this week's Parshas Bahar, even though we're no one reading the Parsha of the Moadim, but Parshas Bahar. Bahar is all about Shabbos. Not the Shabbos of the week, but the Shabbos of the year, the sabbatical year. Same idea. You go out from the Chitzonius, you go out from the extreme, you go into a Pnimius. The 7th year is Pnimius. That's why on Yom Tov it's called Sheshvinin. It's called guest, because you're dealing with a Monday, you're dealing with a weekday in experience of the Chitzonius as it stands on its own, and yet it's becoming holy, it's being invited in. Why once the chitzonius, the external part of the Zeir Anpin, goes down to create the latter part of creation, which means the world, as the world becomes very distinct and separated, east is east, and west is west, and north and south, and the weather is different, and this is different, and everything is distinct, and each thing stands on its own, which is Bevav Yom and the 6 days of the week in Niskaliel. Azai, but then that's weekday. And then on Yom Tov it's about Azai b'Yom Azayin, Oile B'chinas Pnimius Tezah Ba'Oy Rabba. On the 7th day, after the 6 days, then on the 7th day is Meir Pnimius. The whole world is then B'chlal, the world on Shabbos. The external world is nurtured by the Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin, not by the Chitzonius. And the Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin itself is Oila to a higher place. V'zeu shenemar Shabbos lahavaya dafka v'day lamevin. That's why over here it's a Shabbos lahavaya yudke vavke, because in the Pnimius of it is where you have havaya, it's not camouflaged by the distinctions of the other spheroids that make everything separated and disjointed, as we said earlier. And to understand this inyan a little better, oh, by the way, how does this fit with the first inyan that we learned all the way at the beginning of the Maayon? The difference between Shabbos is that on Shabbos is Meir or Chachma, and in Yom Tov is Meir or Rabina. And here he's saying the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov is because on Yom Tov it's weekdays which have gone down all the way, and which is Chitzonius of Zeir Anpin, and Shabbos is Pnimius of Zeir Anpin. What's the kesher between this and the difference between Oyer Chachma and Oyer Rabina? It's almost like two in Yanim and Shabbos and Yom Tov, but I think it doesn't say it beferish, that at least I didn't see it, but I think the two are it's very understandable why they connected. Since Shabbos is Pnimius of Zeir Anpin, so in general Shabbos relates to every level to Pnimius. Pnimius is an inwardness. Chitzonius is the way things manifest on the outside, and that's the difference between Chachma and Bina. Chachma is the nekuda pnimius. What's the inner nekuda of what's the point? What's the inside? Bina is the manifestation. I want to open it up to all of its details, which means I want to spread it out so I can see the distinctions of what this nekuda, what the seed contains within itself. So Bina is chitzonius compared to Chachma, which is pnimius. And therefore the experience of Shabbos, which is pnimius of the Midas, it relates to the pnimius, which is Chachma, and what takes place in Chachma, Tainug, because Tainug is what? An inwardness, getting closer to your essence, that's where you feel the pleasure. Yom Tov, on the other hand, is the chitzonius of Zeir Anpin. So even when it has an aliyah in Bina, which Bina is chitzonius, which the nature of chitzonius expanding and opening everything up, so it brings simcha as well, which is so on both levels, on the levels as it is from below, and in the levels of matching divinity that is coming down from above, it makes sense how the two match. Pnimius matches with Pnimius, and Chitzonius match with Chitzonius. Okay. And Pnimius and Chitzonius, for those who might not know, Pnimius means the inner, and Chitzonius means the external. To understand all of this with added explanation. We first need to preface the root of the idea of Shabbos. As it says, Shabbos is really beginning with the idea that God worked and He creates a world. And Shabbos is not just that He finished. Then it should have been, if all that it means is that Shabbos is that the Eibishter finished, He completed, then it should be 6 days, and then it should start the next week. It's over. Creation is over. What's the seventh day? Seventh day is, the Torah describes how Hashem looks at what He creates, and He's very satisfied. He looks at it, it's very good. When is that? And that v'hinei tov ma'od, that satisfaction is what carries over by Yom HaShvi. The entire Shabbos, it's v'hinei, Hashem is looking at Masha Asa v'hinei tov ma'od, it is very good. So it's the after experience from the labor and the work. In the weekdays is the labor. God is occupied, involved, whatever that means, with the labor of creation. And the Shabbos experience is the Eibishter sitting back and enjoying or delighting the creation in which he created from. The creation brings him pleasure. So Shabbos is a day of pleasure. So now let's analyze that a little better. What does that mean? This idea of this resting will be understood by analyzing down here below, by the human being down here. We see that when a person does any kind of work, like writing, let's say you have a paper that you have to finish for college, whatever it is, you're studying, and you're busy writing, and you put in so much work and research and work, and you're writing, and you're erasing, and you're editing, and you're writing again, and you're putting it in, and you're thinking, and it's not good, and you start over again, and then you write again, you rip up that hair, till you get that perfect paper that you really wanted to write, right? That means you're channeling your energies down and concentrating it into this piece of paper, into this project, and then when you're done, and it's to your satisfaction, it fits what you deeply inside feel you could have produced and wanted to produce. You sit back and you experience powerful delight, pleasure. Let's see, but the Alter Rebbe is going to analyze that experience. V'hatzir, or this is writing, or an artist who's doing painting. V'habinyan, or someone building. K'yoytz, a craftsman, whatever it is, a smith making a piece of jewelry, piece of gold, whatever you're doing. The time that you're working, you're very occupied in this action. All the powers of your soul. You're using your brain, you're investing your emotions, your thoughts. Right? Especially if it's an inner kind of a work. You really want to produce something well. So you're mamish occupying all your powers. You're from your will all the way down. Even though you're really working you're doing physical labor, but you're also engaging and involving and preoccupying your thought, and your thought is coming from your intellect, from your mind. Your mind is directing your thought. In order that you want it to come out, should be beautiful. The Sidur and in a nice way, which is befitting to it. When you finish the work, and you relax, and you sit back, and you rest, and you're from all the powers of your soul, all these powers of your soul that now became expanded and directed into the work. So then you stop, and you contemplate. Then you contemplate with your intelligence and in your understanding in all the actions that you've done. You're taking a look, you're examining it. Sometimes you look. You ever have that? You put in a lot of work in something and it's just not it. You feel it didn't come out well. And it's frustrating. It's not it's not as nice as you would like it. And you're checking it out. Is it or is it not? And sometimes it actually exceeds your expectations. You didn't expect it to come out so perfect. And when all the work that you've done is fitting in your eyes, it's consistent with what you want deeply. And then you're taking time, examining it. You're contemplating how beautiful it is. And the greatness of how splendid it is. Then it fills you. You receive. Suddenly, like something deep inside of you turns on, fills you with a deep satisfaction. Let's just put it this way, you're in a very good mood. At least for 20 minutes. Maybe even longer. If it's a project that you really work, they'll put you in a very state of deep satisfaction. There's a deep pleasure of having accomplished something and written in it that it came out the way you wanted it. You might share it. I'm saying joy is explosive. This is something that you might share with some good friends, some people, and you might take it out quietly and open up and take a look. And you delight when they're looking at it, and you're like, wow, you feel that you're proud of it and so on and so forth. But it's all related to that deep inner satisfaction of the work that you've done. of all that you've done, because you have invested and you preoccupied your intellect and your koiches nafsh. Now that's definite. Now he's going to psychoanalyze this pleasure. Now you might say that where is this experience of pleasure coming from? So you can say, just like in the work, there is in this project, okay? Let's say you're a craftsman and you made this exquisite piece of furniture. You're a carpenter. You made this exquisite beauty, and it's like, it's beautiful. It came out like beautiful. So you'll say, included in the furniture is what? The wood, the materials, the tools. They're not in the furniture, but they're part of the experience. Then your talent, your artistic talent, that's because you have a good pair of hands. It's artistic talents is not only is not only the brains behind it, it's that you have a good pair of hands. Some people can be abstractly very good at math and perfect in things, but they just don't have the hands to be able to produce something. You have to be able to have training, means it's in the hands. That's part of the work. Part of the work, if you had a few helpers that were helping you, is the ability to give instructions. Some people are lousy teachers, they have to do it themselves, and therefore they can't get done in big projects. Some people are master instructors. So included in the work is not only their own handiwork, is that they were able to instruct and pick the right workers, but not only that, guide them and show them how to do it perfectly. So that speech is also involved. And what else is involved? That's all part of the work. What else is involved? Thought, obviously the thought process that went in before you made it and while you're building it. And I guess there's a lot of emotions that are also somehow went into it. And the intellect, the idea behind it, it's all part of the work. So we might argue and we might say, the pleasure, there is pleasure inside of it. There is delight, there is pleasure. And like when you finish the work and all the work is done, suddenly the pleasure that's in it, that's part of the work that's in it, suddenly like hits you. Where's the pleasure coming from? Where's the pleasure? If I'm eating something, I'm getting pleasure from the food. And if I build something, where am I getting the pleasure? I'm getting pleasure from the object. So the pleasure is in it, and now the pleasure is being projected to you. It is pleasurable. It is. So this pleasure. Is that correct? Is one of the elements that are in it, and it's like the pleasure, which obviously, just like your thoughts, were your thoughts that you put in, your talent you put in. It's you, while you were working, you were generating your pleasure into it, and now the pleasure which is in it is coming out, and you're receiving that pleasure. Doesn't really sound right, because that's not what's going on. The pleasure is not in it. The pleasure is not the thing. The pleasure is deep inside of you. The pleasure is you. When you're looking at the work and the work is consistent with an idea, with something that you desired and wanted, obviously the reason you wanted it, this thing, is because for some reasons this thing is consistent with who you are or what you are or your pleasure. So it triggers your pleasure. That's the point. It's triggering your pleasure. Not that the pleasure is has been part of the work. When all the work is over and everything is done, you go back to yourself, and in yourself is where you meet your pleasure, because pleasure is, I would say, the first experience or say consciousness of life at your inner core is pleasure. So as you're going, returning to yourself, you're hitting the pleasure notes now. And it's not just because you're returning. Because if the work, you could return from your work and the work was not consistent with your desire, which your desire is reflecting who you are, including your pleasure, it's not going to bring you pleasure. It's only going to frustrate you and bring you a lot of aggravation. So what you're doing is mirroring and reflecting your pleasure, but your pleasure is not in it. The pleasure is in you. And in the words he uses later, it's triggered by it, by whatever work you did, but it's not it. It never left you, the pleasure. It obviously signaled it was involved because only based on what you essentially, because again, there's different types, styles of furniture, different styles of architecture, which obviously, you can have 10 architects and they will take pleasure in a complete different style. It won't be the same thing because, even if I produced it, if I'm producing something that's not my style, it won't give me pleasure. Someone held a gun to my head and told me to copy a piece that, and even if I did it perfectly, I'm not going to have any pleasure from it. Not just because I was forced to do it, but because it's just not something that meets me. So obviously, the whole operation was triggered by wanting to satisfy the pleasure, or again, we're dealing with such subtleties. It's even hard to think so deep. But the pleasure remains you. It's not in the work. When the work is done and you're returning back to yourself, in that inward element of self is where the pleasure opens up. Something like that. Okay. Now here it says, this is what he's explaining over here. This oneg that you're receiving from how beautiful your work was, nechshav, definitely it cannot be considered mechlal in yonei gufei hamalacha klal klal. It can't be part of the work itself. Shreya oneg, because the oneg koyach nivdal, it's a separate koach, hu ba'atzmos hanefesh, in the essence of the soul, gam mekoidim she'asa, even before you did it. It's not that the pleasure is created by the action. And he didn't preoccupy, he didn't take his pleasure and occupy it, so to speak. Because when you're working, you don't feel the pleasure. The pleasure comes after the work. It's not like your intellect. You invested your intelligence. You invested your desire is also not invested. Your desire is compelling the work. But the other koiches are koiches that are being enclosed in the work and therefore preoccupied in it. But pleasure remains just unfelt, but not busy. Your intellect, understanding got busy. After you're contemplating the beauty of the work, this on its own, separated, but in relation to the completion of the work, it awakens the pleasure, the koach of pleasure, benafshoy, in one's soul, mitzad atzmai. In other words, the pleasure is like an esirusa de liela. It's happening from within itself, not from the work you do, but it's consistent with when the work is consistent with who you are, I guess, it will, I guess it's almost like I don't know. Okay. I have to think about that more. It's not considered part of the work itself that were drawn from the kochos. It's not that the pleasure got drawn down. And that's the idea. Keser doesn't go down. Keser remains muvdal, separated. Nevertheless, it has to have some kind of an attachment. It can't be just your essence as you are completely detached from anything outside, because then why would it have anything to do with, how would it be triggered by anything that's taking place relating to the work? So it has to have a connection, and v'shayach ktsas, and some kind of a connection imam malacha with the work v'hamaisa atzma and the action itself. After we see, since we see that the cause of this pleasure that's coming doesn't come, it's only coming as a result of the work that you've done. We turn over the page, and the action on page 636. And not from another reason. Because you're not receiving pleasure. It's because you see the beauty of your work. It has a connection with the action. From it will come the Yisroel. But again, what he was emphasizing is it's not part of it, and then you're feeling it. It's you. It's just triggered by it. Remote control. When the work is done, if it's consistent with, I guess, with who you are be'etzem, that's what's going to then trigger from the action. Why is the action somehow reflect or triggering that sensation? I guess it's an essential thing that can't be explained. That's why what your pleasure is in is not sechaldig. It's not intellectual. Why some people have pleasure in one style and other people have a complete pleasure in a complete different style. Pleasure is just related to your core being. Yeah. The oneg is not considered part of the action, but it's not like you take your pleasure and you invest it down, and then it's like kind of developed and created in the action, and then in the end you let go, just like your intellect comes back into you. Your pleasure goes back from the object into you, and that grew or developed, and now that's not what's going on. The pleasure has always remained in you. It's only triggered by the action. And the example for this above, Muvan Lamaskal, will be understood to those who understand. The supernal delight that there is in Chachmei Allah, Hanikra Eden Canal, that's called Eden. Shubav and Nimshach b'Shabbos Dafka. Shabbos, it's stirred, and Shabbos, that pleasure is released. Why? Because after God created 6 days, like it says, on Shabbos you call pleasure. Ukanal. Shubah, because why is that pleasure dafka after Shabbos or at Shabbos? Shubah rak mesibas vav yom indachal. It comes because of the work of the 6 days of the week. Shekad me'elav. That came before it. In other words, for sure that the 6 days of the week serve as a trigger to the pleasure. And that's why we know the weekday make the Shabbos. Vayar alakim es kol asher asa. The Eibishter saw all that he did. V'nei toiv ma'oid. And behold, it is very good. And he gives now a mystical interpretation to what tov ma'od means. Tov ma'od means pnimius hakeser, which is pleasure. Pirish mipnei shehizboinen al derech mashal beyoifim alachtoi. Hashem saw the exquisiteness of the work that he's done. Kisheshavas mimalachtoi dafka. Oh, it doesn't say dafke here. When he rested from his work, at the time of the work, it's preoccupation. Again, these are very hard things to understand by God. What does that mean? As he's working, he's preoccupied. But the levels of godly energy that has been invested within the world is, so to speak, farnumen, it's occupied in the work. When the work is over and he steps back into himself, that's when it evokes and it triggers pleasure. How do we know this is the way it is? Because God created us in His image, and in the Torah it describes this cycle of weekday and Shabbos. V'rashu toiv ma'od, and he saw that it's very good. V'yoifi v'hidur anoisloi, and in the beauty and in the perfection that it is fitting for it, or in the niceness that it. And then God receives the pleasure from them. And that means that there is pleasure now. Remember we said before that the Ze'er Anpin, which is Shabbos, which is the 6 days of the week, and the Pnimius of it, which is Shabbos, on Shabbos it has an Aliyah, it goes up into Chachma, and really in Chachma it's experiencing Eden. What's Eden? It's the Atik Yomen, which Atik is the Pnimius of Kesser that dwells in Chachma, that is now touching the 6 days of the week. What does that mean? That means, like we said earlier, that from the work that you've done, the 6 days of the 6 midos that go out to create the world, the pnimius of that, which is Shabbos, which is the pnimius of this project, evokes pleasure. And that's the pleasure so the pleasure element is happening, is really a inyan that's taking place deep inside the pnimius hanefesh. Since it's being evoked by the 6 days, and it seems like it contacts, because if it doesn't contact, we wouldn't be able to put the two together. As a person finishes a project, the koiches hanefesh from the project and the beauty of the project and everything about it rises, the image of it, the success of it, whatever it is, rise up, and they touch the pleasure, the deep inner pleasure of the soul, and the two connect. And that's what happens over here. Which is called Toiv Ma'od. And that happened the first week when God created the world. We know that every single week this repeats itself. The Yedua, it is known, the whole Shabbos is like Shabbos Bereshis. Every Shabbos is like Shabbos Bereshis. There is a drawn of Atik is drawn down. That's the pleasure that's being drawn in Ze'er Anpin. Which in the weekday, there's no pleasure at all. It's the work. The work is over. That's when the pleasure connects. So that we understand now that there's two elements in Shabbos. There's the element of Shabbos as it is, the pleasure is in the place of pleasure, in the place of Keser and Chachma and so on and so forth. And there is what triggers that pleasure, and that is the work that was produced. And as we're going to see in a moment, not the details of the work, but the fact that the whole thing was so perfect. Because what the real pleasure that a person gets, as we're going to see in a moment, is from the general. But it's not considered part. The pleasure always remains distinct. It's not considered part of the 6 days of the week. Just like we say the intellect is part of the 6 days of the week. The intellect is, because like we say, kulam bechachma asisa, that the chachma itself went down into asiya, into action. The pleasure does not go into the action. It remains separated. Shehem b'chinas chitzoni is the zabolvad. And there the 6 days, the actions, is from the 6 days, it's the chitzonius of Zah. Ela shegormim loy chibur v'hiskashres imam kanal b'mashal. They cause the 6 days, which all operated together to create this finished world, they caused through the pnimius, the 6 days of the week, obviously don't connect the pnimius akasa directly. Through their own pnimius, as we're going to see soon, through the general power that was created as a result of the 6 emotions working in harmony, each one contributing on its day, created a bigger, a unified project. That project, which is the pnimius of them, causes the pleasure, and so forth. But on its own, it's completely removed from them. Because the pleasure is not there at the time of the work. Quite on the contrary, the work itself, it's based on a hidden, unconscious sensation, you have to say, or else we wouldn't go to work. Our koiches are driven by desire, and desire is being motivated by a deep pleasure. Excuse me. Is motivated by, just a little allergies, so I'm sorry, is motivated by a pleasure, but the pleasure itself is not present in the work. Yeah, I would think, I always thought that pleasure would be there in a very silent, benign, underlying element, but seems to be saying that the pleasure remains b'havdalah. Okay. Gam b'yoyse tared b'melechas hamachshava, even when he was working v'day lamev. V'hinei afal pisha sheishes yoimin d'choil hanal. Even though these 6 days of weekdays, garmim l'amshachas b'chinas atik. Now, even though they're the ones, the 6 days are the ones that trigger this experience of atik. As we said earlier, pleasure is being triggered by the work that you did. The carpenter, the watchmaker, is not going to have that experience of delight unless he made a watch. And as we said before, the making of the world is through these different koiches, these powers. Eina aliyah mehem atzmam, as we said earlier. The aliyah is not from them, from the 6 days themselves, directly contacting the pleasure. Eladavka mepchinas pnimiyas devav yoimen. The 6 days, which are hands-on creation, they need to communicate or surrender themselves or melt, so to speak, into a contact or into the pnimius of the 6 days, which is Shabbos, and the pnimius of the 6 days is what does connect with the pleasure. Why? Because the pleasure will only come when the work is harmonized, when the work is the hiskalus of all of them together, the dafka. Because in the mashal that we used earlier, it's very clear. The pleasure that we're talking about over here, that when God sat back and he said it was great, it's just magnificent. This pleasure, when a craftsman finishes a completion of work. Now, there's many phases in completing a work. There's many phases. There's this part and that part, but they all, and each one is when you finish it, there is a certain tainug, but it's when you bring the last piece and you make that last connection and you look back and the whole thing is finished. It's like that's when the pleasure really kicks in, and that's from its entirety. And we all understand that. I mean, we don't have to now speculate. Everybody understands that's the thing. The other day, sitting at home in segregation. I keep on forgetting the name of this mishigas. Isolation, segregation, whatever the other word they're using. Quarantine. So my wife ordered some puzzles. So we had 1,000-piece. Was it 1,000-piece puzzle? So the whole family was busy with this puzzle. And once you get into a puzzle, you can't stop. You caught up. Everybody's sitting with this puzzle. But you know what? You can't buy any puzzles online. It took like 3 weeks until the puzzle came. We ordered a bunch of other puzzles and no other puzzles came. But when you're making a puzzle, so I'm looking, the puzzle had like a big, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. So there was this part. So you had, it was a shopkeeper, and then you had this part, and we had the different parts of the puzzle. So each part, you're thrilled when it's finished. You found this piece, But the real joy comes when you're like, oh, the last piece, you put it there, and everybody stands back, and the delight of having accomplished something and made something, it fills you with pleasure. I mean, not anywhere close to what we're talking about over here when you're just putting together the puzzle that someone else made. But just the fact that you put it together also gives us delight, especially you invested your powers and energy and time and whatever. But a project, for sure. But we know that the pleasure comes from the entirety. From something specific. And the klolis, the general, is from the partnership of all these different elements that all work together. The harmony of the entire human being with all of his different powers all coming together. When the work was done, according to how he would want, in a way that it's fitting what the expectations of the artist. It's only when it's perfect that all ends. And that's why if one detail doesn't come out good, the whole thing can be perfect. But if one detail, if the artist notices that one detail is not good, there's pain. There's like that they'll show it to someone and say, but it's so beautiful, everything is so... You see, I didn't get those eyes. You're trying to copy, like a painter is trying to copy a person, and everything worked out so well, but the nose is a tiny bit off. As much as they try to forgive themselves that the nose there, but it ruins the whole thing, because not the whole thing. All the levels, what is needed. Not from one specific part. That's why by God it also says, Vayar Elokim, and God saw as kol asher asa. He saw everything. Every day it also says. Hashem looked at what happened. V'hinei tov. V'hinei tov. Every day. Some days it even says V'hinei tov ma'od. It's very good. But in the end, on Friday, it says Vayar Elokim as kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od. And that's the pleasure. Vayachal Elokim, and God was concluded. That's when he rose into this deep inner pleasure. Diktik loima mikol dafka v'day l'mev. Ubechol ze moving eich shavav yom in the choil sheyom tivchal behem. Now we'll understand. So where does the pleasure then connect to? The pleasure connects to the inner strata of the 6 days, where, as we spoke earlier, the 6 days are all together, they're all unified. The outer part of the 6 days, which the days are separate, which means each individual koach of God, the koach ha-chesed, the koach ha-gevura, the pleasure is not contacting that koach as the koach stands individual. That means Monday is not being filled with the pleasure of the divine. The weekdays are not. Shabbos is. As Shabbos is, the Pneumius, as Shabbos has Sunday. So in a sense, the pleasure of the Ein Sof is reaching Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but it's reaching it via Shabbos. Not as they're included in Shabbos, not as they stand on their own. Besides, if... I'm sorry, I just got this. When allergies strike, they strike. What can you do? But when it comes out on Yom Tov, that's like, as we said before, the king tells his son, bring your friends also. Hashem tells Shabbos, bring the weekday too. So Shabbos takes Sunday as Sunday is complete, the chitzonius of the midah, the complete Sunday as Sunday stands in its individuality, and he brings it into holiness, and that's why the Sunday, which is a weekday, becomes a holy day. It's making contact. That's an unusual thing. That's what the Zohar says. It happens 3 times a year, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, that even an external day, midah, can tap into the pleasure, into the koyach ma. V'loy midah v'prati shabai. Moving that way, understand. When Yom Tov falls down, even when they're invited in, they're called only a guest al derech mashal. But Shabbos is compared to a son. And the guests are like his friends. They're joined with him when he comes to the table of his father. Perhaps it would be something like this. Once the person is happy with the general work, and then it's like you finished all your work, and then the general satisfaction calls the attention of the carpenter to one specific detail, and he analyzes the detail, and he has satisfaction from this particular detail as well. So the satisfaction is like flowing into the detail as well, but it's first and a derivative of, by joining his general satisfaction of the whole thing. That could be the meaning here. They too should come along with it. Which is an interesting thing. That means Now, when Yom Tov comes out on a Tuesday, the holiness of Yom Tov is not just on Tuesday. It's taking it needs to be accompanied by the Shabbos. That's why we always know that it says that the Yom Tov is elevated on Shabbos. That's what it says. The Shabbos after Yom Tov elevates the Yom Tov. Now we get a much better understanding. It's mamash needed, because it's like, even though it doesn't have to wait for Shabbos for the Yom Tov to get it, but since it's via the Shabbos, it's probably via the Shabbos of the weekday that it's already connecting. But when the Shabbos comes and that pneumistic element is highlighted and stronger, it's picking up the Yom Tov to a greater degree as well. They go up with Shabbos, which goes up like a sun. In the 6 days, even though they're the main reason. Because if you don't have the detailed work, you don't have the general completion of it. If you don't have the carpentry of this part or that part, then you don't have it. You're not going to have anything. The whole thing is the external actual labor. But still, what made God happy? What gave Hashem tainug? From all that the Eibishter made. So you need that part of the divine. You need the weekday, which is where you're making contact with asiyah, with practical doing. But the pleasure is from the pnimiyas dafka, as we said earlier. Because again, the pleasure is not from the fact that I banged the hammer here or from my chiseled over here. It's from the entire thing. But as a mamish kamashal amavu b'mayim razeh, lamalka to a king, the heavenly bro yechida, that had a one and only child. Now, the 6 days are only called guests of the sun, which means they join along with the sun, Ela b'Yom Tov, only on Yom Tov. This doesn't mean every week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is also called a guest. No. Every week, the days of the week remain days of the week. On Yom Tov, on Yom Tov, we have a special that the king says to his son, bring your friends as well. That means the rest of the year, even though the king knows that his son is, whatever he's doing and is accomplishing is with his buddies, but he doesn't call the buddies. He has his son come home to the dinner all the time. Once in a while, he says, I'm throwing a party, invite your friends as well. The days of the week are only elevated on Yom Tov. B'nehi de'ema, that's when they are invited. Netzachod Yisoid into Ema, into mother. Shaboy melubich b'chines oyer abba, which in other words, really it's being elevated to the joy of the mother. But in that is always there a drop of the pleasure of Abba, of father. And dafka then it's called the calling of holiness. But regularly, the rest of the year, it's a complete weekday. It's not rising at all above. And even on Shabbos when it does go up, because on every Shabbos, only the Pnimius goes up. Even on Shabbos, when there is an Aliyah for the week, the Pnimius goes up. And like it is understood, in anybody that looks in Priyetz Chaim in the gates, in the portal of Shabbos, because even on Shabbos itself, the chitzonius of Shabbos itself is also not going up. And that's the reason why the world in its most physical outer state looks the same on Shabbos. The pnimius of Shabbos goes up. And with all of this, we'll understand the main difference. Between Yom Tov, Shebiyoim and the Chol Yom HaShabbos, in the Yom Tov, which when Yom Tov comes out during the week, and the Yom Tov is also holy. L'Yom HaShabbos, to the holiness of Shabbos, why this is called a guest, and this is called a child. We still need to understand in the mimer itself of the Zohar, b'mashehim sholabra, the all the base tavi beloy hazmana. One of the things that was emphasized is not only that this is a son, and this is a guest, and therefore he's not called a guest. One of the questions: he's called a guest. It's not a guest. Someone said, Rabbi Yossi said, 3 of them are invited. I think it was Rabbi Yossi. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said 3 are invited, not more. So Reb Abba asked the question, Shabbos not? So Reb Shimon answers, no. So Reb Shimon is answering that Shabbos not. So that we can understand why Shabbos is not called a guest. It's called a son. And Yom Tov is called a guest because it's the external. And that's why it doesn't really belong there. He's invited. But it doesn't answer. One of the things the Zohar emphasizes is Shabbos doesn't need an invitation. The son doesn't need an invitation. Yom Tov needs an invitation. So this is the point that he wants to explain over here. What does that mean that it doesn't need an invite? An invite simply means that the king is inviting you. But usually we know, unless you did something to deserve an invite, you wouldn't get an invite. Some people invite you. Oh, I'm going to invite them to the chasana because you know what? They were very nice to me. They gave me a ride. Because they gave me a big discount. I'm going to invite them to the chasana because, you feel that the person did something for you and that's why you're inviting them. That's the idea. So he's going to explain that in order for Yom Tov, the weekdays, to go up, there has to be something to trigger that invitation. Your children don't need to do something that they should be invited. The child calls the parent, I'm coming for Shabbos. Okay, you're coming for Shabbos. Only if they have a hazmana, only an invitation. Then we need to understand Lama Nikra Yom Tov Mo'adei Havaya. Yom Tov is called Mo'adei Havaya. Simply it means the times of Yud Kei Vav Kei. V'anu Oimle Mo'adim L'Simcha. Set times for joy. The whole Mo'ed, but what Mo'ed really means, a time that Lashon Hazmana means it's been set aside. A time that has been set. An appointment. Mo'ed means really an appointment. In order for an appointment, you have to set the appointment. You have to be invited to the appointment. The Chol Moed Lashon Hazmana k'moi v'nayadati. K'moi hinei noyadu. They met. He says in the beginning of the Maimer, 3 are invited. The Sidur is known the Gimel Regal and Pesach Shavuos Sukkos, because he's explaining. So it's interesting. You would think an invite means a Serusa D'Liela. You're being invited from above. So he's not so clear because he's suddenly turning it around and emphasizing very much a Serusa D'Latata. So I think the explanation is, when are you invited? Because you did something to get the invite. You have to trigger that invite. The 3 regalim are Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkos. So we know that Pesach is Sunday, Shavuos is Monday, and Sukkos is Tuesday. Meaning, I don't mean that literally. Pesach doesn't have to come in, but in Indian, Pesach is Chesed. Shavuos is, and we said the whole idea of Yom Tov is that the regular weekdays are being invited. On Yom Tov, on Pesach, Chesed is being invited. The chitzonius of Chesed, the external part of Chesed. On Shavuos, Gevur is being invited, and Sukkos Teferes is being invited. So he says, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, and B'chinas Chagas Tezah, that the Chesed, Gevur, Teferes of Zeirah. Pesach b'Chesed, Shavuos b'Gevur, Shavuos is Gevur. The Sukkos b'Teferes, and Sukkos is in Teferes. U'bekulan l'nase inyan aliyah sheblahem be'ema, and by all of them, their elevation into mother, which means their invite, that they're raka yidei alos man betchila. They all needed to raise up something that they should be elevated. They had to send up. a notice that they want to come, or something that would make them deserve to be invited. When we're talking about Pesach, which is the chesed of the Ze'er Anpin, Shemeir Boima Abba Ve'ima, which chesed is then treated, the chesed of the Ze'er Anpin, again, remember, on the most external level of that chesed. The chesed as it's coming down into this world to create the Sunday, to create the elements of chesed in the world. But on Pesach, it's being invited for what? For a treat, that it should shine in it, may Abba Ve'ima, from father and mother, from the, right, which in there is the Orein Seif, which was, we said earlier, it's the pleasure that's connecting to it. Hoya al Yedei b'chinas Yisrus l'tata davka. Pesach, even though Pesach in general we say is not through a Sirusa de l'tata, not through an arousal from below, that's the whole thing about Pesach, God gave it from above, but there was nothing that we did in terms of avoda, serving of God, a mitzvah, but the very fact that we were in Golus Mitzrayim, you read the story, the Jewish people suffered so much, and the suffering is what stirred God's compassion and his kindness to take them out. Dach, and that is the going out of Mitzrayim. Through the difficult word, and then embittered their lives. You see, they cried out, and God responded to their cry. This is what evoked above the supernal kindness. And over here, it's that kindness evoked the invitation from God himself, from the Ein Sof himself. Ubeshvuas. And by Shvuas was, Aydesha Amru Na'aseh v'nishma, b'mesiras nefesh. You have to have something equivalent to Pesach, the Golus. Over here, there was a powerful mesiras nefesh, where everybody committed themselves till the end of time, to nullify, to surrender everything God says, even before we know what he's going to say, we're going to do it. And it wasn't a short commitment. It's forever, for them, for their children, for all of eternity. It's the biggest commitment ever. That was impressive. That was a stimulation. Nimshach le'mat Torah, the Torah, and through the channels of Gevura, as it says by Matan Torah, Mepiha Gevura Shamana. We heard it from the Almighty One. Was through the power of Gevura. Ki Torah nitna, where do you see the power of Gevura by Torah? Because the Torah was given in a frightening way. It was given with sounds and thunder. The Koil Shofar Chazak, with a powerful blast of the shofar that caused everybody to, it overwhelmed us with dread. From the power of Gevura. And Sukkos, Teferes. Sukkos was also Teferes. It's interesting, by Sukkos, why Kamashakasa, like it says, Ki beSukkos shafti, in Sukkos I sat you. Vehemanane Yakovoid, and they are, what are these Sukkos? They are the clouds of glory, Shahayel Teferes. The clouds of glory brought splendor to the Jewish people. When people from the outside saw, they were like, wow. And we know that Sukkot is connected to Yaakov, which is Teferes, and so on and so forth. What's interesting, but by Sukkot, he doesn't say where there was Yisrusa de Latata. What was the Yisrusa de Latata for Sukkot? What was the arousal from below that caused the Anani Yaakov to come? Doesn't say. He said, by all three, you needed to have it. And that's, by the way, another idea that he brings on the bottom over here. Regarding Anani Yaakov, it says in the pasuk, "Ve'esa eschem, I carried you al kanfei nisharim," on the wings of eagles. And the wings of eagles referring to the clouds that were surrounding them. Hashem was protecting them like an eagle with the clouds. And the clouds caught the missiles that the Egyptians were hurling at them. Their arrows was being intercepted. That's the Anani Yaakov. So they're like Rashi says, the example of an eagle that takes its young eaglets and puts it on its wings to catch that if anybody shoots with an arrow, he says, let the arrow go into me and not in so God protected them. Eagle is, we know, in Spheros, on the right side there is, in the Merkava, in the chariot, on the right side, which is Chesed, is a lion, on the left side, which is Gevura, is the ox, and in the middle, or in the which side, northern, southern, so whatever, one of the sides is the eagle, and that side, and the eagle represents Rachmanis. Like Rashi says, that an eagle has mercy on its children. It doesn't want to scare them. So that's Sukkot. But the point over here is, there was something from below that needed to evoke, just like a guest can only come with an invitation. Like you see in the story that he says, the king says to his son, invite your friends because I want to show them appreciation for what they do to you, because they deserved it. The essential pleasure that hits the panemius of Zeir Anpin is suddenly connecting with the higher pleasure of as we said before, of Keser, Atik, revealed in Zeir Anpin, which happens on Shabbos, the weekly a pleasure that is released in Zeir Anpin, because he's going to say that's not a Sarusa Dilatata. Even though it's very strange, because even though it's the week itself that evoked it, it's the work that evoked it. So isn't that a Sarusa Dilatata? Why did Hashem get excited? Mikol Hashados. It's not called a Sarusa Dilatata. Because the pleasure that someone gets from the work that they do is from the fact that they did the work. If you showed me the same piece of furniture and the same that someone else did, I'm not going to be filled with delight and pleasure. It's the fact that I did it. That's not called a Sarusa Dilatata. Sarusa Dilatata means it's coming from someone else. The outside, earlier when we spoke about the Nasav and Ishma, all these things is considered an other did something. This is not considered an other. Even though, and more than that, even though it's triggered by the work, as we said earlier, the pleasure is really self. It acts like a trigger, but the pleasure is not the work. Remember that what we discussed earlier. So therefore, it's not called Sarusa Dilatata. It's called the Sarusa Diliela. It's a delight on its own. When I'm finished, when this is over, for whatever reason, then I feel myself. Then I delight in myself. Again, I know we're talking about very, very fine and subtle ideas, and I myself understand this. I feel like my understanding in this is very limited, very not. I don't have it. I'm struggling with it. To be able to, I guess you have to really silence yourself and go deep inside yourself to be able to really hear the subtlety of what he's saying. Doesn't come from the Yisroel, it's from below. And the comes on its own. As it is known, the by Shabbos we know, but by Yom Tov we say Mekadesh Yisroel Vazmanim. We are part of the holiness because we stimulate it. We said Nasav and Ishma. We did the work in Mitzrayim. There was something from below. But Shabbos we say Mekadesh. He's the one who sanctifies Shabbos. By Yom Tov, the Yisroel the Kachinu Lizmanim. And by Yom Tov we say that the Jewish people were Mekadesh the time. So the Kachayim and Mekadesh Yisroel Vazman. That's why when we make the blessing we say Mekadesh Yisroel Vazman. Obira David moving up Piyanal b'mashal oisem malacha v'shevis. This will be understood in the mashal of the person who does the work. The makabel oinig miyofi amalacha, that he receives the pleasure from the beauty of the work. She'enon makabel mitzadis oided uzulas eilazeh. No one has misoided him. Ela ma'atzmai ba kabbalas oinig hazeh. From himself comes this pleasure. Achash is bainin, after he contemplated biyofi amalacha kanal. So first of all, there's no other involved. It's my work, what I did. So it's like a self-generating pleasure. But more than that, even in the work that you did, it's not the work that creates it, it's after the work, the pleasure is not, as we said earlier, if the pleasure is in the work itself, and then that kind of reverberates or rebounds back into you, it's a different story. Then it would really be coming from it, and to a certain degree you can call it Sarusa Dilatata. It's not that. The pleasure is separated on its own, as he said, inside the person. And it's very interesting. He says the work that you've done is kind of just a trigger for you to be able to be happy with yourself. kind of a thing. But I'm delighted for myself. Nothing to do with the piece of furniture, nothing to do with how beautiful it is. But that somehow lets me experience and feel myself maybe. Maybe that's, I don't mean feel yourself in a coarse way. We're dealing with not a negative type of an Inyan, a deep sensation of It's not considered raising a feminine way. What I really need is anybody who's listening to this class who can give a little explanation on this idea. That would be great. I'm reaching out to the Yisrusa de la Tata. Like put it into words. And how do you prove this? This needs to be fleshed out a little better. What the pleasure is and how it's not coming from it. Which isn't the case on Yom Tov. The 6 days of weekday, that's already a state of considered otherness. Because as we said earlier, that's already disconnecting. The kav is not continuing past with the emotions, the chitzonius of the emotions, the external emotions are actually disconnecting from the kav, and they're becoming like someone other than God, even though it's Hashem's names, Kael, but it's already considered because it's lacking the presence of the Orein Seif in them, so it's already considered separated, and therefore when it is deserving recognition, it's like someone else. On Yom Tov they're being elevated. And that's why through an Esoidus, not every week, through something special that they did. Pesach, because of the freedom that's coming from the enslavement. Shavuos is because of, he said earlier, because of the receiving of the Torah and the Nasa and Nishma that came along with it. That's why he says, from Kodesh they're invited. They've been sent an invitation. And how did they get that invitation? Through deserving that invitation, through an esoidus from below. Which isn't the case on the day of Shabbos, which is coming on its own. It's like a child is going into his father's house, without an invite. From all this, with all of this, we'll understand a question regarding Chag HaSukkos. Dafka Sukkos is a question. Shakasha, it's difficult. Al-Pi Kabbalah is a paradise. According to what we learned in the paradise. What do we learn in the paradise? That what? The Arizal really says in all of Atzilus there is the presence of Havaya. The paradise says that what? That Dafka in the Havaya is Dafka present where in Tiferes. Oh. And what does Havaya mean? Havaya is really an extension of Koach Ma. Havaya is Gematria. B'miloi, it's Gematria 45. And Havaya is really in Chachma. Havaya b'Chachma, it says Havaya is in Chachma. Because Chachma is the Keli for Orein Seif. We're just saying that in Tiferes, the Orein Seif comes down stronger than in all the other side spheres. If Tiferes, he's going to ask the question, if Tiferes, according to the Ramak, is always called Havaya, which means it's always dwelling in it Kodesh. So what's the Chiddush of Sukkos? Sukkos, we come and we say that Tiferes is invited upward, or weekday is being invited upward. And Sukkos Dafka. Sukkos is applying to Tiferes. But the question is, Tiferes is always Havaya. In other words, this sphere is Mitzad Atzmai already Kodesh. So why are we saying it's weekday, and when Sukkot comes, a weekday is becoming holy? It's almost like if I would put it in the days of the week, I would say Tuesday is always, and Taka Tuesday is Taka holier. We said Tuesdays, it says 2 times Kitov. It's like an elevated day, but still not holy. But according to the Ramak, every Tuesday should be Kodesh on its own. And then Sukkot, so what is being added on Sukkot? That's the question. The since it's in Tiferes, the connection of Sukkot to Tiferes. Earlier he said it's because Anana Yaakov, it cannot Yaakov to Tiferes. He didn't mention Yaakov. Here he mentions Yaakov, and Yaakov is Tiferes. By Yaakov it says Yaakov travels to Sukkot. Ekidu as it is known. What is the Maila? What is the quality? The Chag HaSukkos and Chag HaSukkos mitzad b'chinas Yom Tov. What's the Maila and Chag HaSukkah is mitzad bechinas yomtiv, mitzad the yomtiv element. Shemeir boy mibchinas Abba ve'ima. On yomtiv we say it's shining in Sukkot from Abba ve'ima. Keniska, as we said earlier, v'aloi hu bela'avacha mibchinas ha-teferes. Sukkot is anyways from the level of teferes. Shekoil mi beis ha'feichem chesed gevura, because it's a hiskalalus, because it has chesed and gevura. Shemeir boy oirein soif, which in order for chesed and gevura to be together, it has to shine in it oirein soif canal. But according to the Arizal, it's answered. Why? Because the Arizal is differentiating between the chitzonius of the midos, and the chitzonius of the midos don't have the hisgalus of Avaya, and he's going to explain even Teferes doesn't. Their Teferes is Teferes. I don't know how it will have how can it be even Teferes? How can it be Teferes if it doesn't have Orein Soif? But that's it. It's more pronounced the fact that you're Teferes, that you're beautiful, not the Bittul and not the Hiskalalus. Kikol b'chinazah, he says, really, all of the Ze'er Anpin, v'hashva echas, is all equal, le'inyan b'china Shem Havaya. In terms of saying that Havaya is manifesting, it's all in Ze'er Anpin, in the entire Ze'er Anpin, in the Chesed, the Gevurah, the Teferes, if we're dealing with Pnimius, b'b'chinas ha-Pnimius and the Pnimius. For who b'chinas ha-Shabbos, and that's the Shabbos. That's not weekday. The whole idea of weekday is we're leaving the Pnimius and we're allowing the Midas to extend out into the three lower worlds, where they're not tapping into that Pnimius place where there be Hiskalos, but each sphere becomes separated. Why? Because the Oirin Seif is not felt in this level of the spheres. And over there, that's weekday, and over there, usually there's no Oirein Soif. Yom Tiv, they're elevated, and you know what? Teferes too, once it's moving out in its complete external state, it's maybe a little more sublime than the others, but it's not, it's over there, we can't say on it that it's miyuchad with the Oirein Soif, even Teferes. And that's why, but if it's on Sukkot, even the external of the Midah is being elevated, and on Pesach Sunday, Chesed, on Shavuos, Gevura, and on Sukkot, Chitzonius of Teferes is being elevated. Or the Inyan Shar Shemos Movad Shem Havaya. And regarding all the other names, which are not Shem Havaya, Kol B'chinas HaChitzonius Dezah B'Ashva Echas. All the Chitzonius is equal. In what sense? Shekulam Yoitzim, all of them go out, Mifuradim, separated, umuvudalim, and individualized them, is one from the other, Keniskals we said earlier, v'im kain, and if so, gam b'chinas ha-teferes, shava l'b'chinas ha-chesed and gevura. Teferes is also equal to chesed and gevura, b'chinas ha-chitzayni is in the level. Now again, you can't say mamish, because seif kol seif it's teferes, but it doesn't have the real quality of now, the other, so then according to this, you might ask, so what's teferes special? If Bepnimius, they're all Havaya. And if Bechitzonius, they're not Havaya. And they're all, so what's it? The answer is that the reason why Bepnimius, they're all unified, the Iker Inyan is in Teferes. And from Teferes, Teferes gives the power to Chesed and Gevura as well to have that Hiskalalus Inyan. Yeah. That's what I think must be the answer. The Eina Oris Oirin Soif B'Chag HaSukkos, and therefore the Ha'ara of the Ein Soif is only going to shine a Chag HaSukkos Ela Metzatchehu Yontiv, is only because it's Yontiv Dafka. Shaz Oila, because that's when it's being invited, but Oir Ema into the light of the mother, which is Bina. Shemelubish Ba, which in it has a dosage of Oir Abba, the lights of Abba. Remember, because holiness, godliness, and pure Orein Soif is only in Chachma. Keniska, as we said earlier. Avaloi Metzad Etzem Midas Teferes, not on Teferes on its own, V'dailamev. And after all of this, is Baru Prate Divra Maayon. Now we can go and read the Zohar over again, and we will see how everything fits so beautifully. So he's now going to explain it. We're going to move fast now. We got our page and we got 1, 2, 3 sides to finish. He's basically going to read the Zohar piece by piece, and based on all the fundamental ideas that we laid out, we're going to understand now the cryptic statements of the Zohar. The Zohar began, Tochazi, come and see. B'shaited the Yisroel, the Tata Chadon, at the time that the Jewish people down here rejoice. Umesadre Petoira, and they set their tables. Umani Yakar, and they wear expensive clothing on Yom Tiv. Malacha Yelo Omri, the Malachim say, Mativ the Yisroel, what's going on? Why are they partying? God answers, Ushpiza ilah isla yoimeda. To have a supernal guest. Pirish, what does that mean? Shailas HaMalachim, the question of the Malachim al Inyan Mikra Kodesh, the Yom Tiv. They're asking on the Mikra Kodesh of Yom Tov now, B'Yom Dechayil. They're asking on the calling of holiness on a weekday. Ma shaychas li Yisroel dafka b'zeh. What's going on here? The Jews are rejoicing. Ma inyone, what's the Inyan that Yidden are suddenly in a weekday, they're dressed in Shabbos clothing. It's a weekday. What's going on here? So they're asking on the Inyan of Mikra Kodesh of Yom Tov, what's going on here? The answer first thing is, who is Shpizi Allah? There is a heavenly guest. What does that mean? Someone is coming to the palace today. Who's coming to the palace? The day itself, time itself, the day itself. Yom Tov came out on a Monday. Monday is now elevated. Pirish al derech mashal ha'orech. So when a guest is coming, she'oisen b'shviloi, you usually have, what you can eat for dinner. Open the fridge and find something. I don't know. Find, not tonight, not every day you cook, always. Or maybe for whatever reason, maybe someplace you do cook all the day. But yeah, find some leftovers. You'll make something with what's there in the fridge, what's there. But guests are coming. No. You're going to go to the market. You're going to buy. You're going to make. You're going to prepare. It's nice dinner. Guests are coming. And then you have to clean the kitchen. When there's no guest, you can kind of, sit down to the table. Yeah, nice. No, the whole house has to be cleaned up. Guests are coming. It's a whole setup. Besuda or levushim, and people are dressed in their finest. Kiyotze, like. Because it's why? Because there's something new going on. And here there's a new guest. There's a guest in the house. On Yom Tov, where the lights of Chachma are illuminating in Bina, the Emor b'Yom HaChoil, and through Bina it's illuminating all the way down into the weekday. Shazel davar chadash, this is a new thing. Sheb'Yom Choil, that in a weekday yeh Yom Kodesh, it should be holiness. Mekodesh ha'elyon da Abba, from the supernal holiness of Abba all the way down in the way this doesn't happen. It's interesting, different than what I was saying. I was saying that the day was invited upward. Here he seems to be learning that the guest down here is the invite of, we're down here. We're on Monday. And a guest who's coming, who's the guest? The guest is the light of Chachma, that's the guest. The lights of Oyer Abba, the holiness is a guest. And we're preparing for this holiness. From the lights of Abba be'ema, v'oyer ema bezah. It's interesting. Before when I prepared it, I was reading it wrong. Not the elevation of the day into Kodesh, but that Kodesh is coming down. Kodesh is the guest. Not the weekday is the guest. The Kodesh itself is the guest where it is. That's what he seems to be saying over here. This illumination, b'shem ushpiza ilah, a supernal guest. V'achakach shalu, so they ask, v'lav delachu ma'asar de ikra kodesh. So I understand. He says it's your guest from a place that's called holy. Dahainu oyer Abba. It's this holy light that's coming down. But what does it have to do? What does it have to do with the Jewish people, with them? What does it have to do with the Jews that they're at this party? What's happening here? Are they not holy? In other words, the Jewish people, where Kodesh comes, the Jewish people belong, because they are also Kodesh. They have Kodesh in their neshama. So when Kodesh comes, they want to be there. And there's two reasons why they have a connection to Kodesh, to holiness. One is from Hashem says to the Malachim, from my side. The inun dvi can be because they are cleaved to me. We'll see in a minute. V'chad mesitru the kodesh, and one is from the side of holiness. The Chsiv, it says, Kadosh Yisroel Hashem, that the Jewish people are holy to God. Begin kach, and therefore, ushpiza de lahainhu, it's their ushpizin. This guest is their guest. They come from Kodesh. First of all, they connect to me. Secondly, they're also connected to Kodesh. What does that mean? Begin this minu de hu shpiza me Kodesh. Because the invite, the Hayoshpiza Mekodesh, or the invite of this Minu, that's interesting, Lashon over here. This Minu, the Hayoshpiza, the invite of this Ushpiza is coming from maybe it means the guest who is arriving is from Kodesh. The Chsiv Mikra'ai Kodesh, a calling of holiness is being called down. Paschu Kulu, they all say, oh, praises the people that have that. In other words, they're not guessed by this. It's Monday, Tuesday, they're not inside the party, but the Jewish people are there. They're not dressed in malachim in their finest clothing on Yom Tiv. Yidden are there. Why? So the Eibers to answer two things. Pirish Beis Tshuvas Hashiva. He answered them number two. Echad mitzat shehem dvukim ba'akadosh baruch hu. Number one, they're cleaved to me. Who's having the dialogue with the malachim? So we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the 6 midos, the Ze'er Anpin that we spoke about earlier. That's called HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he's conversing with the malachim. So he says, number one, they cleave to me. Because we know that the shorish of Jewish neshamas, why are there 600,000 souls? Because the Jewish neshamas come from the 600. We are children of Zah and Malchus. And we come from the Pnimius. Malachim also come from Zah and Malchus. But the malachim come from the external of it. It's called the zivuk of neshikin, from the zivuk, from the unity of a kiss, which is just breath, which is just external. The neshamas come from an essential bond, which means that we are inherently children of the Ze'er Anpin. And therefore, and that's why we cleaved, and that's why there are 600,000 souls, corresponding to the 6 spheroids that there are. Okay. Because the Jewish people the Jewish souls come from a physical union, physical meaning essential in this sense, versus just a ray. The rest of creation comes from rays of the Ze'er Anpin transmitted through Malchus. All of creation comes from the hashpah, from Ze'er Anpin to Malchus, but it's just considered a ray, not the essence. Neshamas, so therefore we're Mashek and Amalachim and Mezivik Neshikin, which isn't true about the angels, which they come about through a zivug, but only one of a kiss, which means just an external one. Now, since we come from the pnimius of the Ze'er Anpin, and the pnimius of the now what's the difference? And I watch this. The difference between the chitz, what did we say? The rest of creation comes from the chitzonius of the. We said earlier, how does Hashem create the whole world? Through the chitzonius of Ze'er Anpin, not the pnimius. That's why it's weekday. It's choil. The Yidden come over from the pnimius. The pnimius of Ze'er Anpin is where Havaya dwells. Havaya is Shem Mem Hai, Mem Hey. Havaya is Gematria Shem Ma, 45. So if we come, that means Yidden have a shaykhis to Shem Ma, which is Havaya, which is Kodesh. So they're a whole, because Havaya is Kodesh. Ma is Kodesh. Koyach Ma, the power of Chachma is called Kodesh because of. Since we come from the Pnimius of the Ze'er Anpin, Yidden, Hashem says they're also Kodesh. Because they're connected to me. Hubam B'chinas Ma the Chachma comes from Ma the Chachma, the Oir Abba Mamish, literally from the Oir Abba Mamish, Kenal Shanim Shalabra, considered the child. So since they cleave to me and they're from me, Vahabeis, and another reason, in truth, they themselves don't just come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The shorish of Nishmas Yisroel is Mamish and Chachma. So they really come from Kodesh itself. Vahabeis mitzat shehema b'sharsham, in their source, Ma'or Abba Atzmai, they come from the lights of Abba itself. Shememeno nimshach b'chinazah, which from him comes the Ze'er Anpin. Daharei Yedua, it is known, she Yisroel alu b'machshava. Yidden arose in thought, and the explanation that it says that Yidden arose in thought means, what does machshav over here mean? Chashev ma, koyach chochma. B'machshava, the Oir Abba, in the machshava, the lights of Chachma, v'zeu shama kodesh Yisrael. Yidden are rooted in the level called kodesh, like it says in the second parak of Tanya. All neshamas of Yidden come from Sfiras HaChachma. That's where the child is taken from, the brain of the father. Shehem atzmam b'chinas kodesh d'Abba, not only via because they come from Ze'er Anpin, and Ze'er Anpin comes from kodesh. They themselves are rooted in kodesh mamish. And that's why we are considered brothers to the level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's unbelievable. From that perspective, we're not considered his children. We're considered brothers because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is considered a son of. You can't imagine someone hears just this part of the shir. Imagine they take a clip of this small part of the shir and they say this is what Rabbi Wolf is teaching. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a brother. He's one brother, and we're siblings with him. And the neshamas are siblings to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because we're both children of Chacham and Bina. Someone who's not familiar with Chassidus, this sounds wacky. When you learn a little Chassidus, you understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not God. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one of the names of the manifestation of the sphere, of the spheres. As God is manifesting through the spheres, He's called HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is His central manifestation, and then there is the neshamas that are on the same level. The level called Zah says, "Laman achai v'rei," for the sake of my brothers, because on that level, we're brothers. Shehen Knesset Yisroel, which are Knesset shenikra achim l'Zah, which are called brothers to the Zeir Anpin. Begin kachem, because of this. So this is a higher reason why. So therefore, if kodesh has suddenly arrived, now usually kodesh, koyachma, once we're created, and once we emerge, once we are neshamis are sent down here, we're disconnected from a world of kodesh. We're light years and light years away from kodesh. Where do we find ourselves? In a world of choil, in a world of mundanity, in a world that seems completely disconnected, in a world of nature, and so on and so forth. But when Yom Tov comes and the Ushpiza Ilah and the higher Ushpizim comes, there is a gili of Oyer HaChachma down here in the weekday. We want to be at that party. That's what the Eibishter says to the Malachim. They belong there. They're members of the same family. It's their father that arrived. Or their grandfather. If they're children of Zeir Anpin, then it's the grandfather. If they're brothers to Zeir Anpin, it's their father. They belong there. Ubegin kachem, because of this, Ushpiza hu line, it's their guest. Ma'oyer ab Ema, from the lights of Ema, from the lights of mother, Shanimshach ba ma'oyer Abba, which in it is drawn from the lights of father. Mebeis tamim alolu, for these two reasons, Mishim dahayu Ushpiza machachma da'oyer Abba, because ultimately this Ushpiza, this guest, it's from Chachma of the lights of Father. That's where it's coming from, and it's their father. Kenis Kaliyah. Va'az, and therefore, what do the Malachim say? Paschu va'amru, when they finally get it, that we are much deeper than them and much higher than them. What do they say? Ashrei ha'am, praised is the people. Shekacha loi, so is to him. What does it mean? Shekacha loi, so is to him. Kacha is gematria ma. Let's see what I would have thought. Kacha is Chaf 2020 is a mem, and another hey, 45. Ashrei Om Shakar. Ma is to him. What does that mean? It means Havaya is to him. It means that they never became disconnected from the Orein Seif. Neshamis are a chelik alakayim ma'al mamish. They're still an extension of God. They never broke off like everything else. Chitzonius breaks off. Pnimius doesn't break off. Pidish Akacha hu Shema. That's Shema, begamatria kacha, which is gematria kacha. Loi, that's what I mean. Ashrei wam shekacha, that the power of mem hey, loi is only to him. It bypasses the angels. It doesn't manifest in the angels. They're living an external existence. The Jewish people, they're the pnimius of everything. The Yisroel dafka, metamem anal, for the reasons that we said before. V'dai lemev. Isn't it worth to be alive just to learn these secrets? This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The stuff sits in the bookshelves. Sits in the bookshelf. Who's learning it? Shar Hamoadim in the Sidur. Gewalt. After Mashiach comes, you better go buy these books because they won't be in print. Everybody's going to want them. Getting a little practice to learn them now, because then, everybody's going to be expected to know this already. Then the Zohar continues. Three of them that are invited from Kodesh. V'lo yoyser and not more. Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos. Amalei Rabbi says, V'chi Shabbos lav mekodesh uzamin. Shabbos is not invited from Kodesh. Betrain Sitrin for two reasons. Shabbos itself is called Kodesh. It's not invited. It's his inheritance. It's definitely related to Kodesh. So just like in Yom Tov, in the Yidden, we said two reasons why Yidden are Shayach. One is because they're Shayach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the other one is because they're Shayach to Chachma directly. Same as in Shabbos also. Number one, he's going to say the pnimius of Shabbos is mamash a giloy of chachma. And we said before, there's two things happening in Shabbos, from above and from below. The pleasure is taking place because you finished the work. The pleasure is revealed on Shabbos. Secondly, mitzad ze'eh, comparing it to the week, Shabbos is what? Shabbos is pnimius of Zeir Anpin. Since Shabbos is pnimius of Zeir Anpin, he's called a child, so he belongs in the palace. That's what he's going to explain. This has been explained earlier. Ba'im, in the three moyadis, ba'im ma'or ema, it arrives from the lights of mother, bizah in Zeir Anpin. Lights of mother are transmitted into Zeir Anpin, and within the lights of mother are the lights of father as well. And in it is malubish, is enclosed the lights of father. That's why these three zminen mekodesh are considered invited from Kodesh. The Abba from invitees of Kodesh, because the lights of Chachma are directed to them. And that's the Chesed Gevurah Teferes of the Zeir Anpin. The chitzonius of them happens on Yom Tov. V'lo yoser, and not more. It's only in these three that the Gilui happens. Meaning to say, it doesn't go lower. It doesn't go into the Netzach Hod Yesod. It only goes in Chesed Gevurah Teferes to have such an experience that it should be literally. And again, remember what we're talking about? The chitzonius of it. The actual kelim itself should be. For Shar Rabbi is asking, Shabbos Nama Mo'er Abba Meir Boy. It's interesting how it's Rabbi Abba, his name is Abba, and he's asking about Shabbos is also shining from the lights of Abba. Umau Hefresh, and what's the difference? The Yeshiva Reb Shimon answers him, the Beis Devarim Yesh. There's two differences. Shabbos moved b'maylam b'Yom Tov. That Shabbos is separated from Yom Tov. Ha'echad number one, Shu Atzmai Mechachma Da'er Abba Kanal. Shabbos itself is the lights of Abba. Because the pleasure is separated on its own. I mean, Shabbos itself is not something that's happening and being created down here. As we said, like the pleasure, that if the pleasure would be created down here, then it would be, well, and that would be the essence of the Shabbos. Then Shabbos would not be Kodesh itself. The pleasure of Shabbos, the experience of Shabbos it's the pnimius of the Eibishter revealed. The Hizgalos somehow, that's the idea of Oineg. The Oineg opens up. And that's always there. It's just the Hizgalos on Shabbos, which means it manifests on Shabbos. So it's an Inyan that Shaykh the Kodesh on its own. Kodesh is awakened. Kodesh is pronounced. And that's what Shabbos Kodesh is. So in itself, then Shabbos itself is Kodesh. It's not invited by Kodesh. It's not that Kodesh is being nimshach into something. It's Kodesh itself. But since it's when is it awakened? After the 6 days are finished. And the completion of the work stirs that. So that means that the Zeir Anpin connects to it. So it's an aliyah of pnimius of Shema Dezah of the Zeir Anpin. Bibchinas Hiskalalus, the Hiskalalustig part of Zeir Anpin is now being elevated into this pleasure. Keben animshach alav, like a child that's drawn to his father. Shemevi mashal zeh, that's why he brings a mashal. Lebra da ola beisa davisa. The davua, it's a child going up to his father. So the first one is that it's taking place in the father itself. That's Shabbos. It's taking place in the level of father. Here in the son that's going up to the father, v'achal is eating b'shata diyaboy in the time that he wants. Ubegin kachlav zaman, who is not considered a guest, ela yerusa delay, it's his inheritance. V'haina mashakasav lav betrein sitin, in two reasons. The Dar Lamevin, it's a good, based on, it's enough to those who understand. V'amen oid mashal shein, and he gives another mashal. Lamalka, to a king, to have a lebra yechido as a single child. We turned over on page 638. Chaviva de nafshe, the one that he really loves. Yoav lo shoshvinin, he's giving him friends lenotrele, that they should protect him. Uleschabrebu, and they should attach to him. Malka, does the king say, Yasu lezamna leilon shoshvinin debri? Isn't it nice? Wouldn't it be fitting that I should invite my king, the prince's friends? He invited these friends. But the child he doesn't have to invite. This is what it says. Who is like you amongst the Elim, amongst the mighty ones, Hashem? Who is like you? Neder b'kodesh. You itself are holy. Neder b'kodesh v'adai, not zamin m'kodesh. Kibrodi tatkif ba'avu. Neder means you're strong, like the child whose strength is in his father. V'lav zamin m'kodesh, not invited from the father. Atkan. What does it mean? What are the guests that he says? These are the three Yomim Tovim. B'shar sham ba'or ema, when they're invited up into the mother, shenikra moyadei avaya, then they are called moyadim of avaya metamanal, as we said earlier. Ulagab b'chinas haShabbos, and compared to Shabbos, nikra sheshvinin, they're called guests al derech mashal. V'zamen lu leprakim, and sometimes they're invited im or shema dezah. Sometimes the external parts of the Zeir Anpin are invited to join the Pnimius of the Zeir Anpin, the Shem Ma, which is Shem Havaya of the Zeir Anpin, which is Shabbos. They too are invited in. Shenikra Bra, he's called a child Metaman Iskaliel, because as we said, the Pnimius of Zeir Anpin is still, because of the Iskalalos, remember, always the rule, because it has Iskalalos, that's why Achdus is so powerful. In Achdus, there's Ur Havaya, and that's when we never become separated. And he calls him Barach Haviva de Nafshay. He calls his son, which is Shabbos, Pnimius of Zeir Anpin, he calls him the child Chaviva de Nafshay, the one that is my soul love, the Yechidai, my only son. Ki boy shoyre etzam ashlemus, because in Pnimius of Zeir Anpin is where the essence of this perfection, b'pchenas yachid chaya elamim, the singular one who is the life force of all olamais, of everything, the singular as a as one singularity, not the other koiches which are already not yachid, it's already individual powers. As we said, he calls him my son, my only one, because the inyan of onlyness of the yachid ha'amiti, the Orein Seif, as he is in complete singularity, dwells over there. And this, that at certain times the lights of Chachma shine in mother, in Bina, and through that into the three regalim, nikrak shushvinin. That's only called shushvinin, guests legabav, meaning outsiders compared to him. And what is he bringing a proof from the pasuk? Who is amongst you be'elim? Amongst the powerful ones, Hashem, which is a pasuk in the Song of the Sea. What's the connection of here? Who is like you? Because remember we said this earlier. When he's asking who is like you, God, who is he trying to compare? Not angels, as he's going to explain. He's trying to compare the other names of Hashem, which are the names that are associated with the days of the week. With Chesed, Gevurah, Teferes, as each one stands as an individual, not bihiskalalus. When they're not unified, each one has a name of God. So even though they're godly powers, but they can't compare to Havaya, and that's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is Shabbos la Havaya, because Shabbos is the Pnimius, and in the Pnimius, the Orein Seif himself dwells, and that's why it's called Havaya. And that's the proof why Shabbos is different than the others. Why Shabbos is not a guest, Shabbos is a child. This is coming to explain this pasuk also in this manner. There's no understanding to this pasuk. Who is like you amongst the Elim? If he means to say Elim Alachim, if Elim means angels, does he have to tell you that this is a chiddush, that the angels are not compared to God? Everybody knows there's no comparison at all between a creation and the Creator. A creation is a limited being, and the Creator is without a limit. And if he wants to say that's referring to God, that's called Elim, then the only thing you can even begin to say who is like you is only on Hashem. So if you say who is like, if we want to say, so what? How can you say on it Elim, meaning many? Where are there many? If you're talking about who is like you, who are like you, the other names like Havaya, so how can you say many? It's only one. How can he say many? The name Kel of Elokus, hu b'chinas ha'achtus b'tachlis ha'yichud kiyadua. Names of God are all names of Hashem. But based on this we say, ki b'chinas chitzonius de ze'er anpin, even though it's still ze'er anpin, it's harei yotzim ha'oirois mefuradim. The lights do go out, umuvdalim zemezer, and they separate, especially when they leave the world of Atzilus. Ad sheyesh l'kol echad ve'echad. First of all, the oiros themselves, even when they're in Atzilus, each one has its own separate name. It is known, there's many names in Elokus, in accordance to the Sphira. Once the Spheras start becoming pronounced in their own individuality, and even, right, and especially since we're saying on the most external level, the escalalus element, that each thing integrates all the others, is not felt so much. So each Inyan is really shining its own unique power. In mechasadim, whether it's a chesed energy, hareyesh gam megvura shebechesed. Now he's saying why there are so many numbers, because in chesed there is also gevura. So the chesed of the chesed is shining, its Inyan has one name. The gevura shebechesed has another name. That's why there's multiple names. There are 7 names that are not erasable, but really once it starts multiplying it becomes millions of names. Chesed Kale, as you see, Kale is in Chesed. Shem Elokim Begvura, and the name of Elokim is in Gvura. V'Shem Adna b'Malchus, and Shem Adna b'Malchus. V'Tzvakos, and Tzvakos is a Netzach and Hoid. It doesn't say that, but I think that's what it is. Yeah, he brings in the bottom. And each one has its own madrega, on its own. And the amount of details, and once it starts the evolution of this, it translates to myriads and myriads, according to how many combinations you have in the spheres, which goes on without an end. Who's amongst you, amongst all these, and each one is a power in the universe. Loshen Rabim, a creative power, not the creation, the power that's producing something within the world. But may riboye stafus, it's called Loshen Rabim because of the many different types of b'chinas elokus, of divinity from these names. I know. It's still elokus. As they are in Atzilus, they're still unified. But as they're moving out into into the lower three worlds to enliven the spirits of the lowly, which are real creations, Maayon leyesh, from nothing to something. And therefore, it's already considered nifrat, separated. So therefore, we say amongst these. Havaya, only in Neshamas Yisroel does it remain Havaya. That's what's so amazing. As creations, as all the godliness, all over Chitzonius, it all becomes separated. In Neshamas, that's the pnimius tiga. In Torah and mitzvahs, that's the pnimius tiga Amshach of Havaya. Ritzoyne bezel lohoides l'shem Havaya. He wants to praise the name Havaya. It is way above all the other names of Elokus. Of the name Kale, B'Shem Elokim, and the name of Elokim Gaigamna. Shenikra Elim Loshen Rabim. They're called Elim Loshen Rabim. Shem Havaya b'B'chinas Eskalalus, because Shem Havaya comes in a manner of Eskalalus integration. Kiniskliel. Shua Nikra Adam Dafka, and that's called Adam. Adam Ela Elyanam, compared to the one above. Kiniskliel, as we said earlier. Adam. Iskalalus, everything together compared to the one above, because dafka in the panemius of it is where there is iskalalus, and it's capturing of the simple, puristic, all-inclusive, all-potential light of the Orin Soif. Okay, mikamoicha be'elam avaya, who is like you, and therefore it says mikamoicha nedar ba'kodesh. It is reflecting Kodesh. Kodesh means what's separated, and the Orein Seif is separated. And this level of Havaya is Nedar BaKodesh. Its strength is from Kodesh. It's, yeah, as he explains. V'chazav v'kafaloim mikamoicha Nedar BaKodesh. B'shmovatam b'chenes eskalolus. Hine mitzad sheshem ze atzmoi m'b'chenes ha'chachma de Kodesh ha'elyon. In other words, in addition to the fact that the others become riboy, many, and this is all unified, all potential, all unified, Because of that, it's neder b'kodesh with the simplistic light of the Orein Sof, where it's even before Havaya. It's just pure, simple Orein Sof of Kodesh Elyon. And that's why it says kibra, like a child, the itkaf, the itkaf. Ba'avu, who strengthened in his father, Kaniskaliel. Upirish the itkaf, shenes chazik. His strength is the same koyach of his father. Ba'oise koyach mamish sheyesh la'aviv. He has the power of his father running in his blood. Because Yidden, the level of Yisroel, is really oile in machshava atzma, in chachma itself. So he brings this pasuk, which this pasuk clarifies that his intention in what he said about Shabbos. In this that he compared Shabbos to his child, the Dailamev. We're almost completing. Sheishes Yom, and then the Zohar asks, the 6 days, Ma Tama Yom Dechol. For what reason are they called days of weekday? Rabbi Yossi says, Hashtes Nag Al Yedei Shluchayu. Now, the worlds are being conducted through a shliach, through an emissary. Ad Valdo Takne Bavdala Ben Kodesh L'Chol. That's why by Avdala we say Ben Kodesh L'Chol. My Avdala Hacha. What is Avdala? What's the separation of here? Ela Kodesh Mila Begar Meyu. Who Kodesh is a word unto its own. V'shara Minei Asyan, and all of them come from it. We'll soon see what that means. V'aderech Ilin L'Uvdin V'Ilin L'Natra. And that's why there's a difference. These 6 days, as we're going to see, are meant for work. The 6 days that come from Chachma are not meant for work. They're meant for observance. And when are the 6 days of work also going to be watched? Katzmin and Mekaydesh, when they're invited on Yom Tov, then you're not allowed to work on the 6 days either. What does that mean? We're going to explain here. Pidish Akushya, the question was, my time of Yom Echol. Why is it weekday? What is he asking? We're talking about the 6 powers of Atzilus, the 6 directions of Atzilus. The Ein Abchin is Eiranpin, which is Eiranpin. The Yeduat is known, the Batzilus Iyavigam Yuchad. In Atzilus, the Eibishter, all of the Kalim are all one with him. How can you say it's weekday? How can you call it mundane? It's godliness. So the 6 days of Eiranpin, which are enclosed in Bria Tzir Nasiyah, Amai Ikrin Yom Dechol. Why is it called days of weekday? The Yom Malach and days of work. It's coming from the holiness of Atzilus, as we said earlier. The Tiritz Rabbi Yossi answers. It's interesting. The Rebbe's father teaches in many places that Rabbi Yossi is Malchus. For whatever reason, I forgot already now how he brings Gematrias. Yossi is always reflecting Malchus. Malchus is the one that can answer this, because Malchus is the one that separates from Atzilus to Bria Tzir Nasiyah. So he knows the answer. He says, yeah, the Midas are totally unified, but when it's going down, it's already camouflaged through a shliach. It's working. It's taka elokus of Atzilus, but it's being covered up by powers of Bria Tzir Nasiyah, which are already considered a shliach, an emissary, and therefore the energy is considered already to a certain degree disconnected. Again, yesh loima. That's where Rabbi Yossi says that. I just had that thought while I was saying this. Now the worlds are being conducted through a shliach. Now, dafka in the time of exile. Once we finish our purifications of Torah and mitzvahs, then we're going to make that even Bria Tzir Nasiyah is going to be in the same level like Atzilus. And the physical world is going to be an extension of the divine. So we're not going to have a difference between Atzilus. Everything's just going to be Eibush there. So therefore, it's not going to be weekday anymore. But the whole world's going to be holy. But now, it's still, the Atzilus, Moisrim Shefa Shalahem B'yat Shliach. Because now Atzilus gives, the powers of Atzilus give over their Shefa, their influence, in the hands of a Shliach. Who's the Shliach? L'ubchenes Metat. That's already an angelic entity. It's called Malach Metatroin. Hanikra Avdoi Zakan Beisai, who's called the servant. He's the most trusted servant. But he's Zakan Beisai, like Eliezer, who's Avdoi Zakan Beisai, but it says by Avram Avinu, the elder of his house. As explained in Zohar. And more specifically, that's in general Metatroin. But from Metatroin it becomes billions of different shluchim, that come from Metat. Vav is the Bria, which is already the 6 directions, the powers of Ze'er Anpin of Bria, which are already not considered completely unified with the Orein Sof. And this is already called the level of Nar. even though he calls him Zekan Beisai, but it's called Nar, the youth. Kamashakasav Nara Yisi Gam Zekanti Ze Amasare Shalaylam, the minister will, on Shabbos he rises up, and that's why he's called Zaken, but in the weekdays he's called Nar. That's why it's called weekday. It changes from the substance of Atzilus through a Shliach. And the conduct of the world is through emissaries. I am sending a malach, like the Eibishter tells Moshe, I'm not coming myself, I'm sending a malach, I'm sending an agent. My name is in him, meaning I'm funneling through him, but it's safe, it's a malach. Moshe didn't accept it because Moshe was from Atzilus, and Moshe said, only you're going to come. But by Yeshua, the malach returned. And that's why it says, on this it says by Havdalah, Pirisha Havdalah. What does Havdalah mean? And what's the main nekudas achilik? If it's through a shliach or not, the main nekudas achilik is if it's through a shliach, it's not perfectly one. And if it's not perfectly one, because it doesn't have the luminance of chachma. It's mainly, it can have bina, yeah. Bina is already not perfect attachment. Bina is already beginning of yesh. Chachma is bittul. Chachma is just transparent, complete flow of godliness without any interruption. So that's what it's saying. We're making Havdalah. The idea, where do we find Havdalah the first time? The Eibishter made Havdalah on the second day of creation. Vayavdel Elokim. Hashem made, no, we find it right in the first day the word Havdalah. Vayavdel bein ha'or bein ha'choshech. But on the second day, it says Hashem made a Havdalah between the upper waters and the lower waters. That Havdalah, the upper waters is Chachma, the lower waters are Bina. The upper waters are the Maayon Duchrin, masculine waters are Chachma, feminine waters are the waters of Bina. And between them there is a Rakia that separates. And what's the difference? Upper waters is Kodesh, completely the divine. So, since in the weekday, the inyanim of Kodesh are not shining, as we said, because again, what's the Chiddush of Olam Abriya? Olam Abriya is dominated by Bina, no more Chachma. So therefore, you don't have any more the masculine lights of Chachma. You only have the feminine lights of Bina. So it's already separation. And therefore, as we said, it's not Meir Kodesh. So it's already a Shliach. It's already Nifsak. Something else is starting. It's called supernal waters. Maya Iglida. The Nasarakia, and the water congeals and becomes a firmament. Then comes the lower waters. They're the feminine waters of mother. And then there is the firmament that separates. Let there be a rakia in the midst of the water. That's das that separates. And the main Havdalah, who bein vav ktsav is the Abba, is between the 6 spheres of Chachma, levav ktsav is the Ema, to the 6 spheres of mother, which I learned the whole mimer about this. On Monday night, I gave it actually on Tuesday afternoon. I gave a shir, very abstract, all about Mashiach and about the birth of Mashiach's neshama. And I promised, I didn't promise, but I said I'm going to give the second half of that shir yesterday. But it was a very deep mimer. Also one of these mimarim, B'Yurei HaZoyar, from the Alter Rebbe. And I just couldn't capture it, so I'm sorry I didn't do the interpretation. We're going to learn it, Parshas Bolak, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to learn it. And maybe during that time, once I teach it inside, I'm going to be able to make a synopsis and make the hashlama, the completion, for the Monday night class that I called The Birth of Mashiach. So there he talks a lot about this idea of the 6 midas while they're still in Chachma versus while they're still in Bina. And there's a major difference. In Bina, they're already pronounced. In Chachma, they're just lost and totally one with the Orein Seif, as we're explaining over here. And that's why this is Kodesh and that's not Kodesh. Because the midas that are born from the Hizboinenus of Bina, like Ava V'Yira, and the like, love and fear, they're similar to mother itself. And they're similar to mother in the sense that they're not Kodesh. They have influence. Kodesh means something that doesn't mix lower. It remains separated. The midas that come from Ema do have a shaykhis to lower. Why? What does that mean? He explains. Midas to Ema. Like the midos of mother, which are excited, which is the aspilus of seichel and ava, which is drawn downward. Because we know this, the midos shebeseichel, I'm not going to explain this now, become the source for actual literal midos. And if you take a look at the character of midos, you see that a midah, an emotion, has no content unless it can be mashpia. Chesed, it needs someone to be mashpia. Gevura, you need to get upset at someone or discipline someone. So they're all hashpa outward. And it begins already in the excitement in the mind as well. They're mashpia downward. Chesed does kindness. With people, with creations. And the nature of midas adin, to distance habriyos. Right? To doesn't want to be, he wants to separate. Since they're mashpiyim, they need to have a makabel. Because if you're a mashpiyah, you're not a mashpiyah unless you have a makabel. You need a recipient. That's why chesed is called chesed dal. Chas, he has rachman as dal. He comes, a mashpiyah comes along with a makabel. Kaloymar chas dalim. V'chein midas rachmanis. Rachmanis, it has mercy on aniyim. If you don't have who to extend the rachmim, you don't even have a midah. Essentially, they're mashpiyim. Their nature is downward. That's why they're not called kodesh, because they're not separated la'atzma. Is the Abba, the 6 emotions of Chachma, Shem Koiches Muvdolim, even though they're the Midas, but when they're in Chachma, they're so unified with Chachma, so they're completely, they don't have any nature of Hashpa yet, and they're not Mashpiyim. They don't influence. They separate onto its own. No one can receive them. And that's why they're above the firmament, separated onto its own. That's what kodesh means. The chiddush is that even though it's separated, kedoshim to you should draw it down. Shabbos kodesh, Yom Tov becomes. Every time we're capturing kodesh, it's a chiddush because on its own it's separated. K'moy kedoshim to you, Pirush Rashi Muvdalim separated. Because of its so exaltedness. Nothing can be its makabel. It can't have a recipient. It's a word unto its own. It's separated. Like the lights of mother. It's a word unto its own. And so it's not only chachma, it's even the midas of chachma are similar to chachma. Hainavav ktav is the abba, chesed the abba, v'kulam nikri yoimin lenatra. Therefore, they're called days that should be watched. V'zau shama v'shamru b'nei Yisroel, ki shamar b'nukva. What does that mean? Tahainu ba'aliyas hamalchus ba'or abba tzarich yoim zeh shmira davka. When Malchus goes up into Chachma, it needs to be Shmira. What does it mean? King in a Shmira, Makom Malacha, Liyas Yosha B'Menucha. Don't do work. Hu Kamoiderach Hasarim. It's like, if you say don't work, Shabbos, it means act like a minister, act like an important, like a, whatever, someone who doesn't work. Shemesrachkim Makom Malacha. So, this is, by the way, teaching us. The fact that we were sat in our house and we were told not to work doesn't have to be that we're being held back from work. Everybody's protesting. You're ministers. You're ministers already. Don't have to work. You're separated from all work. Because of the exaltedness. You're so separated. Shabbos, separated. Shamar. Because the days essentially are so. So when Malchus, I don't know what it means exactly, when Malchus goes up in Arab, fine. But the days of Bina, the 6 emotions of Bina, they become the 6 weekdays. Pidshvav Ktsav is the Emor, Shayard and Bezal, they go down as a ramp, and Achanik Ravav Yom in the Chayil to become the days of the week. Ve'il Lanatra, these need to be, but Ve'il Lanatra, when will these be Lanatra? The Amos Ayishtakach Natira, when will they be observed? On Yom Tiv, even these days, even the Bina days, this Min and Makaidish, they're invited up. Begin, Kegon Gimel Mayadim on the 3 Yom Tovim. Like it says in the beginning of the Maimer, that 3 of them are invited. For lo yater, not more kanal v'dailam even. So this is the Pirush on the Zohar. Then he begins and he says, Lahavim b'toisvis bir, being in Maayon now to understand it even stronger. Hamaschal klas in this mina mekodesh. He's going to deal with the question that I was bothered when at the end, I didn't even remember. Who is the guest? Are they invited to Kodesh? Or is Kodesh? And remember we said Ushpiz in Elah, the higher Ushpiz means that Chacham itself is the guest. Then suddenly he turns and he says, these are the ones invited from Kodesh, which seems to be that the days are invited upward. And there's something that wasn't flowing so well. So that he's going to explain in Lahavim B'Taisvis Bir. And so I want to learn that next week. There's 2 Biyurim. Next week's Bir is short. Next week is what? Parshas Bamidbar. Do we have one more learning before? No, the next one is going to be already Shavuos by night, Thursday night. We're hopefully going to be at the base. That makes we'll be able to finish it. So maybe what we'll do is we'll learn a little more next week. We'll learn beginning the whole beer of last week, plus start the next piece, and maybe the following week we're going to learn Wednesday night, a night before Shavuos by night, so that we can finish this before Shavuos. That would be really great. Because it actually does speak about Shavuos. It's talking all about the crown, so it's interesting. So it would be great to finish this. Awesome. These Maayonim was said when? I think in Taf Kosamach Vav.